Hey guys, Tarke here, and welcome to episode. Why do we do? What episode are we on?
Yeah,
I
why would you even
realized I
go
don't
there?
know
to
what
an
episode. We're on a episode. Okay.
173.
Welcome to an episode of Baeclast. Rise, what have you been up to?
The best part of the whole episode counting thing is that there was an error in counting like 3 times.
Yeah,
So now there's
we've
not even
actually
any way.
lost an episode somewhere. I think we've been
I think
on.
we lost like 3. Or like
Yeah. There's one guy who reminds me on every like this is actually episode 89, Tarke.
yeah.
Yeah.
What have I been up to? Some PoE, some Lost Ark. It's been cool. Been sick a little bit, so still am. So that's been kind of weird. It's always a shitty feeling when you're like that on League Start. And other than that, I don't know. I played a Fire Trap Saboteur. It was pretty cool, but I was a little worried that for the event, it's not really gonna have a whole lot of damage. And then, even though the build was cool, I realized that I'm kind of trash. Like, I need to get good. So without playing something like DD to carry my dead brain, I couldn't really do a whole lot. So then I rerolled RF, also with Fire Trap, which I didn't
Really
think is going to
pushing
be
the
that
boat
great.
out there a little bit.
What's up?
Really pushing the boat out. You're like, this Fire Trap gameplay is not quite for me.
No, I liked the Fire Trap. I did
right.
like the Fire Trap part. I just thought that RF is going to be like too sluggish because I've played a bunch of RF, but it always had the same issue of like hitting red maps and then you're like, okay, so I got to do red maps to get gear, get like Glorious Vanity and all these other things. Obviously you got to kill some bosses and shit to get all these valuable uniques. But without that, my character is super like shit. But now with Fire Trap, it's pretty good, and then you can use the blessing for an extra aura with Malevolence, and it's actually pretty freaking cool. I don't know. It was surprisingly good.
And you still on that character now, or?
No, it died. Yeah, I was running around and I was picking up a scour where getting stun locked by Gucci in real life. And it just so happened to spawn the Eater of Worlds mob next to a diamond shrine just off screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it blew me the hell up. It was real nasty.
Yeah. That's
pretty much how it went for me.
Yep.
Thanks, Gucci.
Yep. Nuggy,
Yeah,
how did
thanks,
your
Gucci.
league start go?
It's fine, I guess.
That's a great start, yeah.
I went with like CF Champ, which is actually like really comfy. I really like the build. The only sad thing about that is that it's been like done to death now, so it's like there's nothing really to like figure out. So that was kind of like, but I died to probably my least favorite mod, and I hope they delete it. That molten shell / volatile.
Oh,
Magma
that does
barrier?
so much damage.
It's like, okay, so this is what happened. I'm like Fortify, 3.5k life, Act 10
Oh, right, okay.
with like 20,000 armor and everything. Nothing is hurting me at all. I run into a room, just kind of like do like a big loop. I stand still for like 1 second and I got insta-popped.
Yeah.
And I didn't see them because they were spawning outside of the room as I run in, and then they loop around in the middle of the pack, and then I stand still and they explode.
Yeah.
Like, why can't they spawn? Why can like volatile spawn while you're not in the room? What the fuck?
So when did
So that
they
pissed me off.
actually change that mod? That was like before they did the changes on it, right? Obviously, because you were being Russian.
What?
They nerfed it a bunch of times.
The first nerf was that was
It's
like
just
12
still
hours in or
dumb.
something.
It's not fun to play around,
Yeah.
even if it's nerfed. I just don't care.
Mhm.
It's just I don't like it. Fun fact: if I hadn't died to those, there was an effigy in the middle of the pack as well, so I'd probably die to the effigy anyways. So that was like a nice wombo combo there. Then I made it back to maps. Nice. Again, nothing hurts me except the Archnemesis mods. I go to Harvest.
Ooh.
And then a no damage mod map. single, like, it's one of those spellcaster things in Harvest with a frenzy mod. Killed me in like less than half a second.
Yeah.
With frenzy. So that
Nice.
was fun. Yeah. Made the character again. Made it to like T15, 16 maps. And I don't know. Tried out. I tried out so I was really scared because I hadn't really done the bosses last league of doing the Eater World guy, or like the guy before the Eater World.
Infinite Hunger.
The guy you really like, Rice?
The fun one. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Meister.
Honestly, that was such a nice fight.
I hate you forever.
No, I'm serious.
I mean, to be fair, they did like improve it, but
I think there should have been some kind of tutorial at one point, a lead up or something, where you're taught how to get out of the stupid goo. Like, imagine there was a lead up, such like what's her name? The betrayal, like Katarina, Katarina, and then you're like going through the sewers, and then you would navigate through the sewers or something to the guy. And
you kind of like do like a little mini version of the
phase
before
you do like
the
a
boss
little
itself.
mini labyrinth that's like kind of dangerous, and then before you get to the boss, right? I mean, that would have been smart, I think. So something like that would have been nice, just because I think it's kind of bullshit that, like, I don't know, just be thrown in there with like no, it's like, and what is this? I don't know, it's just kind of weird. So I would like to see that.
It, like where you're supposed to go. I still log out every time and just come back in and then watch it so I don't get the debuffs on me. And then I'm like, okay, this way. But to be fair, it's not nearly as deadly as it was.
Right.
I don't really like race at the beginnings of leagues. I take my time a lot more. So usually what I do is I overgear and overlevel quite a bit because I'm not trying to go fast, so I don't need to get through them. And I just don't even do the phase. I kill him because I have, like a 6 link and a level 19 or 20 gem. I kill him before it gets to the phase. And then I literally never fight him again because it simply isn't worth it.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't have good enough loot.
I really think it's actually such a cool fight. I will, like, for all the hate it got, I was like, what? I'm gonna go into some bullshit now. I'm gonna hate it, and I go in and I'm like, I tried it once in standard, and then after I died once, I started I don't know, I just clicked, and I could just always figure it out.
I think
so you tried it in standard.
It was like, the debuff.
I mean, when I did it like completely blind.
I know,
like, super blind. So
yeah.
That's what I was telling you. Why
I
think it's kind of
And I'm just like spamming my absolution, and it's just not spawning any homies. And I'm like a minute into spamming it, it finally spawned one of them. He kills it instantly with the slam, and I'm just like, dude. And then I get teleported into the poop, and then it was a flat amount of armor that it took away.
It was flat 400 armor and evasion.
Dude.
It just breaks.
No, I had like 50 stacks after the first attempt. I would have been completely dead.
Yeah.
Had I tried it like blind. So, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
other than that, I mean, Sentinel was really fun. Let's see, was there anything else? Like, I really like I really like when you play, like when you do the Sentinel things. We can talk about the setting up the Sentinel things later. But the actual mechanic was really nice for once. So that was nice.
Let's get the rest of the hardcore gamers out of the way. Octavian, how was your league start?
I have played one build, but I have rerolled it a couple times because I died on day 1. I died in Act 10. I was in the zone that leads up to Avarius. I forget the name of it, the Desecrated Chambers. And I dashed up a ledge into the middle of a blue pack, and I got chunked. I panicked. I tried to hit my life flask. I hit the escape key, and then I panicked further, and I died. So that was an unpleasant and slightly embarrassing death. And the second death was to a rare monster. I didn't see the Archnemesis mods it had on because it was almost off screen, but looking back over the clip, it had 2 possessed mods on it. So it was a double possessed, one of the ghosts that uses a bow and puncture, and it punctured me, and through Slayer Overleach, I bled to death in like a second or less. It was very spooky. But yeah, I'm still playing that same build because I absolutely loved it. It's Shield Crush Slayer was my starter. Scaling a lot of generic AoE and using Call of Steel to get Call of Steel overlaps in packs, and it's one of the most satisfying playstyles I've ever had on a starter. So I've pushed it to level 96 this time. I've done Eater of Worlds and Exarch. I want to get Uber Elder and Maven done, but I took this weekend off to go visit my sister up in New York for her graduation. So took a break from PoE for a few days.
How are you finding Slayer? Because I've had a lot of people say that Slayer is really bad this league with Archnemesis mods.
It's felt fine to me. Vampiric is a bit annoying, but not really for the life leech issues. Vampiric is annoying because it turns off mana leech, and losing your source of mana sustain is always unfun in Path of Exile. It's why I hated Baron Influence like 5 times more than anything else, and it's why I don't really like Mana Siphoner, though Mana Siphoner is a way more tame and well communicated than Baron Squares, but still just don't really like it. But yeah, aside from that, it's not that bad. I haven't noticed any particular Archnemesis mods that are like really a problem for Slayer. There are ones that are dangerous in general, but it's it's just nothing about Slayer that's a problem. There's 1 or 2 that you can't cull. I don't think you can cull Berserker. But I only know that because I went and looked up the list of mods to like figure out all the little details. I have literally never noticed it in game.
Yeah. Fair enough. Ziggy, how's your league start going?
I'm playing Spark Inquisitor, back on the Spark action, which is a long and storied history of a skill, but it's good again, which is pretty awesome. Great leveling experience, or just crafted ones, and it feels pretty good endgame. Honestly, it's a little bit difficult to disentangle like the strength of the build, like feeling like I'm very strong in many different ways, but then disentangling that from Archnemesis issues, where like holy crap, I'm so tanky with Sigil and Frost Shield and Inquisitor regen and sap from the Blight Gloves and all these different sources of reduced damage taken and spell suppression and block and everything that I've got going on. And then just getting Omega Giga brapped by random rare monsters instantly in the map without being able to see what's going on half the time. So yeah, I have a complex emotional relationship with Path of Exile at the moment, which maybe we can disentangle through this podcast.
Yeah, sounds
But
good.
We're
yeah,
here for
no,
you, Ziggy.
the Spark Inquisitor stuff's really good though. I like it a lot. But yeah, I don't know. PoE's weird right now. There's a lot I really like, and I feel like I would almost be having one of my most enjoyable league slash gameplay experiences in general at the moment if it weren't for Archnemesis stuff. I don't know. I feel like it's a net negative for the game in many ways. I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, well, before we get into that, yeah, my league starts. It's not going that well. I'm getting pretty bad RNG and SSF. So I league started on Petrified Blood Ice Trap, because my thought process was Archnemesis mods really spooky. I want to freeze things, so I'll go low life and I'll just hit things really, really hard. And that felt really good while leveling, until I started encountering Frostweaver monsters, and I'm like, oh, I can't freeze these things. And then I'm on half health, and there's lots of really scary degens this league. And I'm like, oh, it feels pretty bad having like 2k life against all these degens. And then the first Searing Exarch I did of the league, so the quest one, dropped an Omniscience. I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. Maybe I'll do something with that. And I sat on it. It sat in my stash for 3 days. I didn't use it, and I was doing low life, divine shield, ghost dance, spell suppression cap, block, and spell block cap, and I could like face tank expeditions in tier 16 maps, but I did 0 damage. And I'm like, what can I do to fix my damage? And then I looked at my stat and I'm like, I'll equip the Omniscience. So I've been doing that for the last like 3 or 4 days, and now I do all of the damage. It's amazing. I'm level 95, and I've never had so many deaths on a character before. Would you guys like to guess what my slash deaths is?
Never
Everyone
had
had
this
200s.
many.
Never.
I mean, considering usually you're in the 500s by the time you're at
Fuck off.
90, like the average Redditor. I mean, obviously I'm joking. 896.
160.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Which for me is a
And
lot.
how many of those would you say is with the Omni?
I think I got to maps with like 10. And I would say of those 10, probably half of them, maybe like 5 or 6 were just due to doing like rushing low life while leveling. And then of that, like maybe 3 or 4 were reasonable. Like, okay, Archnemesis is pretty overtuned. I probably racked up the first 100 quite quickly, but I was doing full expedition altar spec Atlas tree. So I was doing like rippy bullshit. And since I've gone Omni, I'm now going for just like an XP farming tree. So it's Legion, Breach, and I'm doing shadow shaping to like block all my 14s but 15s. So I'm like having perfect Atlas. And I think in the last like 3 days of play, I've died maybe like 5 times. So it's like a lot of those were just on like me doing silly setups with like altars and stuff. I was talking to Grimro recently on Fated Connections. And when I was like, yeah, altars expedition, I'm dying a lot. He's like, yes, nodding sagely. You die a lot when you do that stuff. It's like 6 portal strats. It's really good loot. Yeah, so then today I had a mirror drop, which was quite exciting. I've not had one of those before. That's pretty good.
I was watching your video and then I like stepped away and it did the thing where it wasn't loading anymore. So I refreshed the page. As I'm watching you play this Omni build, I'm like, this fucking rat. So lucky. And then I refresh the thing and you're like, here's the drop. And it's a mirror video. I'm just like, dude. Kind of weird. I don't know.
So yeah, my character's going pretty well. I will say for SSF peeps, Legion is popping off for Geomancers. I've had like 5 Geomancer incubators drop in the last 3 days. You get a lot of Geomancers. It's really nice. And I did my first 5-way today. That went really well. I got 3 times jewels out of it, which I don't know what like the average return on investment is on a 5-way, but that felt pretty good. But yeah, so I'm actually really liking the league. I enjoyed how overtuned Archnemesis was day 1, but that was only because I was playing softcore and only because I was doing like a giga DPS build and I could one-shot most things. The whole time I was playing it, I'm like, if I wasn't someone who's played this game for like 20,000 hours on like a build that perma-freezes everything, I would be getting my teeth kicked in like every 3 seconds. And they've nerfed it a few times now. And I'm mostly happy except for the immunities. So I ended up swapping from Ice Trap to Lightning Trap purely because of how frustrating it was that I built a character to freeze enemies and like half the rares in every zone are freeze immune. And even on a Lightning Trap character, the fact they're immune to lightning ailments, I lose 200% crit and a 60% multiplier because I shock by 60%. And it's like, that's a lot of damage to lose just because they're shock immune. And that's ignoring the fact they then get plus 10 max res and like the 50 resistance and stuff. So I think they really need to look into the immunities and just change them to be like reduced effective ailments or something. Because like, if you're a Herald of Thunder build, your build bricked. Just like straight up, you know? So that's my main issue with Archnemesis currently.
I'm kind of like, I'm weird about Archnemesis. At this point, I don't really have a strong opinion about it. When it came out, there were things that were definitely like pain points. So immediately I was like, okay, yeah, like the mana siphoner is kind of weird. People kept telling me over and over, like, you cannot play an RF build. Every single map has, you can't regenerate half the time. And it's like, I never got affected by that at all. Like, it's like a tiny fucking speckle on of like a rock on the, it never really affected me, you know, but there were definitely things that bothered me, but fortunately like worked for me. I didn't see it as something good for the game, but personally enjoyed it. But the thing that does bother me is like the idea of it and how stubborn GGG is on this shit. Immunities are back. They've like fixed it to be benevolent guardians. So the old fix to the previous immunities that were causing issues for years, that even like Jonathan addressed on Baeclast, he was like, oh yeah, we're gonna make it good. And then like 4 years went by and nothing happened, and it's still introducing the same sort of issues. And it's like, it bothers me that they do these things, because I mean, it's we kind of called it on the Baeclast with Chris, where it was like, you're gonna be engaging with this shit a lot. Like, this needs to be good, and you guys aren't really communicating about this stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, it kind of hit the wrong way. And I worry that the pain points, although they are fixing certain imbalances, like yeah, the magma that killed Nugi, or even some of the like other even toxic is super annoying. Things that just don't disappear after you killed the mobs really bother me a lot. But I also don't think that they're going away. I don't know. Like the actual immunities, the resistances, they're just gonna kind of stay there, and that's the game. I don't know if GGG is gonna like make it so that you're not really gonna be noticing these rare mobs anymore, the way that you kind of would in the previous versions of the game.
I think a lot. I think the issue is like split maybe 60-40 or 70-30 along the actual implementation of the mods on the monsters and things like immunities and all that, and also to some degree the communication. And I feel like this is a string that we continually come back to and keep on strumming. But like you just sort of alluded to it. We mentioned on the show with Chris and leading up to that like Archnemesis felt like a really big change and it got a paragraph and a half or something like that. Like, and I thought up until 2 days before Archnemesis was implemented, my chat had to correct me on this. Maybe I just have reading comprehension issues, but I thought that it was going to be like there are some Archnemesis monsters in the game now. You know, some blue packs have an Archnemesis mod, some rare monsters have between 2 and 4. I didn't think it was every single one. So that actually quite surprised me a few days before the league when I learned that.
I know Ziz said the same. I read it as it was everything, so I don't know if it was like
no,
I misread
it probably
whatever, but Ziz said the exact same thing that you just
everything.
did then. Yeah. So the thing I find quite interesting about it is a lot of us are the kind of people who said that we would want to play hard mode if like hard mode was a thing. And even like I said, I was enjoying it from a softcore point of view, but it was like crazy overtuned. If we're the kinds of people who would usually like an overtuned Path of Exile, like, who do you reckon was like the target demographic for the Archnemesis change then? If we didn't like
Path
it,
of Exile 2 players.
Right.
In the eyes of GGG. Like I think they're just trying to like ramp up the game so that it meets their standards of what difficulty is in PoE2. And they've been doing it in weird ways. I mean, there's no other way of calling it. Since the like huge nerfage, I think in Scourge, where they had to like go back on a lot of things, like they're constantly trying to, especially in the campaign, that's been very noticeable, which is not really a change that was met with a whole lot of enthusiasm from the general parts of the community, even though some people enjoy it, like myself. Yeah, I think they're just like planning ahead, but without the context for like the average player. And that's only an assumption, really. I don't really know if they're really doing that, right? Yeah, like most people don't care what's going to happen next league, let alone 16 years from now when PoE2 comes out.
And the other half of it is that it has to fit into the risk and time investment versus reward structure that Path of Exile currently has, where like, and Sentinel is a great example of that because Sentinel is extremely rewarding for the time investment. You press the Sentinel button and you have 4 or 5 things popping up off your loot filter from the next pack of monsters that you kill. Maybe it's some currency, maybe it's some essences, maybe it's some fragments or something, but your loot filter is going to go donk 4 or 5 times most likely. And you fight in Archnemesis rare that happens to have the wrong combination of mods, and you'll maybe get a transmute. I don't know. I mean, you could still also get an exalt, but it's the same odds as another random rare that you would happen to kill from any other mechanic. I don't know. It feels out of whack in that regard significantly.
The thing I find particularly funny about it as well is they were like, okay, so at some point we want to bring Archnemesis into the core game. What's like a good league mechanic to put this in? What if you do it the league where you empower all the enemies to be like way scarier? That seems like a really good mix for a league start. Yeah.
I think it's weird though. After they just had so much success with giving players agency, and then they just take it all away when it comes to difficulty in like one swoop. It's just like so upside down to me. I want to challenge you a little bit about, you said if this was meant for hard mode. I'm sure you don't mean that maybe this is exactly what people meant, but like people who like a challenge. I would challenge whether or not anyone would want, or anyone has even communicated that this is what they would want in hard mode. I don't think anything, because like I think what hard mode was, the way Chris talked about it is more like a return to like an older style of PoE, scarcity, it's more like itemization and like doing with what you have in an otherwise difficult game. Not like because I really feel this is a Diablo 3ification of PoE, and that's really something I have a big problem with. it used to be that PoE, you would see a Roa, you'd be like, okay, these are scary. They can chunk me. They do physical damage. Like, kind of like they're fast. If they get an aura, gotta be careful. Or like sparkers, lightning damage, easy to identify. Like, I would even say like the bloodline mods, I was starting to like be okay with, because at least the bloodline mods previously, they change color. You know, when you see a bloodline pack, oh, that's something that can have a difficult property. Now every pack, it's like I can't know if it's gonna explode on me. I have
They're all
to
bloodline
actually
packs.
now hover over every pack in a game that's gotten so much faster, and it's just like it's so taxing to constantly have to be aware what the next pack in the cluster of what all these effects are that are now like everywhere, constantly chasing you, and then you have to read. If you ever stand still now, it's just hell. It's just they want you to stand still, like they want like, and going back to like PoE's core philosophy of like picking up things, IDing them, being curious about what's on the ground, you get punished at every turn if you're ever playing that way. And
But could
I'm
it be
so
also that
sad about
we're
Archnemesis. I have to
like,
say.
maybe we just suck at identifying these mods? Because I don't know, like initially it was tough to see stuff, and there's definitely so much of it that it's going to be a learning curve. But I don't know. I think that they can do a good job with like visually representing things, because some things are very well
They do.
visually represented.
Yeah.
There's a number of them that are. I mean, like Ice Prison is pretty clear. I don't know, the Hexer.
Corpse detonator is great. It's like a corpse detonator just flashbangs you and it instantly explodes. It's like half a second and just pops. It's like, oh.
Have you seen? I don't know if it's just a bug on my end, so I don't know if you guys have run into it. But have you gotten arcane buffer mobs that are like just floating glow sticks, basically?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem to happen every time, but maybe 1 out of every 8 or 9 arcane buffer, instead of having the regular visuals for the monster, it's glowing like the center of a star.
See, the thing which I find weird about Archnemesis is, especially from the way that Chris talked about it to us, and we were talking to about it on the last Baeclast, where he's like, we want it to be like more interactive gameplay stuff. And he's like, Bombardier and Ice Prison. And I quite like those mods because it's like very clear, okay, you see what's happening, you interact with it. And then when they posted the list, and it's stuff like Trickster, there are so many things that you would never know that's what the mod actually does. And I also liked how it's like, we had to go to the old mods because it was too confusing, and it's like, has extra life or fizz added as fire. And now it's like, oh yes, this is a Sentinel mod. Of course, I know what Sentinel means, and it's like 5 lines of bullshit. But like Trickster, for example, no, I will say this briefly. So Trickster, that's the one where like it runs away from you and it's hard to kill. So you're like, okay, it's just like it runs away from you, it's hard to kill. And it was something like 100% spell suppression, like 90% reduced damage taken from spells and everything on that. And you would have no way of knowing, oh, that's why that's so unbelievably tanky. Chaos Weaver is immune to Wither. And that's like, oh, that's why last league my CA build sucked at killing that. I had no idea it was immune to Wither because you just wouldn't know. Go on, Raiz.
I was just going to say that, like, once you've seen Trickster once, you recognize it every time you see it. It's like that's that little bit that runs away.
Yeah, but that's but like the obvious thing, like it runs away. It's the other hidden stuff. That's the stuff that I have issues with.
The mechanical interactions are easy to communicate, but to play devil's advocate to some degree here, does that then mean that you just can't give spell suppression to a monster? Because how the hell do you communicate spell suppression to a player? Like, is that just a stat that developers can't play with?
I mean, they put it on map mods, they put it on altars.
Yeah, but you can read that stuff. You, as Nugi mentioned, you can't stop and read a rare monster in the middle of a map.
I think if you're going to give something like spell suppression to a monster, I think generally you shouldn't just give hidden mechanics to monsters for the sake of it, because it's just artificial stat padding that doesn't actually contribute to gameplay at all. I think if you are going to give them stuff like that, it should be some sort of physical thing. Yeah. So like a shield comes up that when your spells hit it, go and it glows when spells hit it. Something like that. It's like, oh, when that shield's there, they're suppressing it. Yeah. That's when you like just having it hidden.
It's like the Templar boss from Legion when he does his charge beam and he's like, oh, he's not taking any damage, but I need to run around and walk over the statues. Oh, I can damage him now. Like stuff that you can actually see and interact with in some way. Yeah, I'm not a fan of hidden things, especially it felt so like what about turn after the entire Baeclast. We went on that massive thing about like we can't understand what's happening in the game. We want glossaries. We want to understand what's going on. We want communication. We want this. We want that. And then Archnemesis came out. It's like, oh, this is exactly like the point, you know?
Yeah, but you see, like with something like Essence, for instance, where it's like, yes, they get some resistances based off of the Essence, but you get to like choose how you engage with that and what are you doing in the first place. But then like the actual defenses would be just like an HP multiplier. But here, like how do they think that like 5 different modifiers and it's like life suppression, resistance, block, and like some other bullshit, and it's like on a magma golem, and it's like, dude, like how could you think in the first place that that's ever gonna work? That part was really just fundamentally surprising to me. I don't know.
Also, I'm curious on, especially I want to hear from the hardcore takes on this. It's so I spoke about this in video. It would be fine if Archnemesis was the only scaling point in Path of Exile, but in Path of Exile we have map mods, we have altars, and then just the base difference between enemies themselves. There's such a massive difference between getting some of these mods on like a Skelly, or as Nuggy said, like a rower, or like a harvest monster. Yeah, I don't know.
Heroes
So
are
what
no
was your
fun.
question? with that?
There was a suggestion that I got in my chat, and it may have originated somewhere else. I don't know where, but of having the Archnemesis mods be at full power if it's alone. But as soon as you start adding more Archnemesis mods, or maybe even mods from other sources like Essence on, each individual mod would reduce in power. So you'd still have a stronger monster than a single mod monster if it has 2, but you wouldn't have the full like 50% block that Sentinel gives. Instead, Sentinel would give it like 30% block. And then if it's also with, I don't know, Juggernaut or something, it now can have 4 maximum endurance charges instead of 6, which I think is what Juggernaut can reach. So that you don't have quite as intense top end scaling to the defenses of the monsters, but you still do get more of a challenge if there's multiple mods together.
I think inherently this idea of just like stacking crazy, like tons, like lists of crazy mechanics together works really well when it's like a league mechanic or something that you specifically engage with. Like Expedition with its long list of modifiers, there's some problems with like immunities and stuff there and communication of information. But for the most part, when you're like considering this stacking of mechanics, it works okay. But when it's just like every rare monster and every magic monster just you're randomly encountering in every mechanic in the game, I feel like it just fundamentally doesn't work with PoE on many levels. Honestly, I have so many problems with Archnemesis. I'm like to distill it down, trying to like distill it down to like one comment is really hard. But it's I guess just the fact that I think I'm having a lot less fun with the moment to moment combat of fighting monsters in Path of Exile for many reasons with Archnemesis. Whether it's because they have immunities to mechanics that I've specifically tried to invest into that they are slowing me, so much slowing going on of many different types.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to be like, okay, I've got my ignite immunity, I've got my poison immunity, I've got my chill immunity, I've got my freeze immunity, I've got my shock immunity, I've got my sap and brutal and scorch resistances and stuff like that. There's so like a massive checklist that's ever expanding of different mechanics that are similar and do the same thing, but you need to look for ways of dealing with them specifically. But not for some specific content like a boss that has this thing that you need to plan for, but just for everything. The fact that you're constantly dodging shit that's floating around above your head, the fact that there's degens everywhere all over the ground stacked on top of each other that you can't see, especially under your like own skill mechanics or under themselves. Everything is dropping stuff when it dies. Like just so much of it is just feels so anti-fun.
Did
I feel like I'm
last
being
league have
constantly
as many
punished
cold
now.
snaps? Because this league, it feels like every inch of my map is covered in cold snap.
There's what is it, permafrost that leaves behind a semi or a sort of cold snap esque effect. So that might be where that's coming from. I think a lot of that pain stems from the fact that these modifiers are extremely specialized for the most part. And so, in a world where builds had a lot of flexibility in their moment to moment gameplay, like, I don't know, some sort of GGG's perfect version of a Trinity build that's swapping between 2 different self cast skills that hit with different elemental types. like you're firing off freezing pulses and rolling magmas, then you come up against a monster with a ton of cold res and you just spam your fire skill. Or you come up against an empowered elements monster that's essentially immune to 4 out of 5 damage types most of the time. It doesn't matter. Now you have 2 different damage types. But most builds in Path of Exile are extremely, extremely specialized. So when you come across the monster type that specializes in screwing you over, you feel almost targeted, and that does not feel fun.
So yeah, I was gonna say that I feel like I want to make more generic characters now. I feel like it used to be quite acceptable in the last couple of years where you'd be like, oh, my build's weak against this thing and it'd be fine. Whereas now it's like not a thing. It seems like there's this checklist of things you have to sort out. So I don't know, Rise and Niggy, do you have that when, especially when you're going for like, making hardcore league starts and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
I feel like it's kind of less for me.
Oh, really?
In what way?
Like you
That you
just
can
slap
build
on
more?
determination and grace.
Yeah,
and
but
you're
that's
good.
Well, that's
but you
still
see,
the same
for
thing. It's you
me,
have to use
for
your mana
Mr.
for that mandatory setup.
It's like pick up one aura cluster, pick up the mastery.
But do you not find that
I
Playing the
boring
game.
having that exact same mana package in every build you play?
I don't think it's great. Don't get me wrong, but
I'll give you.
listen,
I'll,
I think
I'll,
it's better for the game than like having all these people being incredibly frustrated about defenses for 6 years straight. It's like 86% of the community. I think I saw a Reddit post about that. Like 86% of the community runs determination. Fucking good for them. It's way better than running around with 3k HP on softcore. So I don't know. It's like in a way there's less to do, but the ceiling is like higher, right? Less for like the average character, but the ceiling is like way more interesting for me.
I don't know. I feel like there was always a lot of different tools that you can apply on softcore. I just think it was hard to communicate why that would be worth it for us. I feel like there was like a meta there was not really, because I remember like one of my friends who plays softcore and he really likes glass cannon builds and everything, but he would never have like shock or freeze immunity. Right? I gave him that. He felt so much better. He would love playing Simulacrum. He didn't have block. Gave him block. All of a sudden, felt a lot better. Right? And still, he had Headhunter and everything. Right? It's just like getting blown up randomly was just annoying. And I get that determination solves a lot of that. But what I miss is like builds these days. Like I'm no longer like thinking, okay, so this guy has like aggro with face aggro or MOM with something, or something has a lot of recovery, or a block character, or a dodge character, or like we had like 7-8 different styles of building defensively in PoE, and they all kind of worked. They all had like certain things that they struggle against, but we accepted that and we tried to like fix that in between, like as we were going through. And that was really nice. Now everything just feels samey, right? Every
agree
map
with you.
feels the same, and every like, and that's really a shame.
I don't think I've gone for a 6-link chess piece base that wasn't an armor evasion hybrid in like 2 leagues.
Yeah.
I fully agree with everything that you said, Nugi, with the exception of it being hard to communicate. I think it was impossible for them to do it. It's been so many years of people telling me like even Grimro can't survive, and then I look at his character and he's got like 6k EHP, compared to like Steel Mage's 270,000, and it's like how do you communicate when like the people that a lot of times they look up to, or like build creators, like the things that people point them to play the game correctly, like directly contradicts what realistically in my eyes people should have been doing for the better experience in Path of Exile. And I think eventually GGG capitulated, is that the word?
Yeah.
They like gave up and they just went, yes, here you go, determination. It's boring, it's very Diablo 3-ish. I hate it. And
I
I'm with you that it
mean,
would be way better and way more interesting to have these other things. It killed MOM. It killed mana
but the
builds.
thing is,
I can't
in
play them.
standard or in softcore, MOM was like hot shit because it gave people defenses and offense, right? So people did recognize it, right? Like, and this is probably also stuff like aura staggers, MOM. I mean, I'm sure people played Necro for the block. I think people were starting to recognize that as well. I just think they did away with it like so fast. Also, like just max res, that like how they like turned that whole thing around, and I don't know. I think the stripping of defenses in too many avenues and like streamlining that was a bit what it is. But yeah,
I will say, since you mentioned Grim, because I literally spoke to him about this like 2 days ago or something. So the thing is like, I think he's an interesting example, because if this is like what you're using as like, oh yeah, the proper like full softcore zoomer only cares about speed. So his current build is immune to everything. He's full chill, shock, stun, poison, complete immunity, hinder, main, blah 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 blah. He's running around with mage blood. He's got really good EHP, but he's still doing like 6 portal, double altar, full expedition gameplay. So like his gameplay hasn't really changed. He's still dying a lot. And even that kind of player is having to build all of this stuff. Like, his build is tankier in its softcore state than your guys' builds. It's just he's doing like stupid levels of content. And even in that level of content, it's still falling over.
Just so we're clear, like, I think that's great. It's just that it was more so a point about like how it applies to the player base, less so about, because like that's the issue, right? Like, it's when people talk about guests on Baeclast, bring on somebody who can represent me. Empyrean, Grimro. It's like, bro, you have nothing in common with these players. So if you want to like play their builds, you're just gonna have a bad experience, man. So that's like my only comparison. Because as much as, you know, they can totally pull it off and like have fun, and in Grimro's case especially, it just absolutely makes sense. Eventually GGG just had to give up, and I hate it. I trust me, I fucking hate it. But it felt choiceless from my perspective.
Another thing on that, I just before this went live, I was watching a video. Snap put out a video talking about like MP's group and like their returns and everything they were running and whatever. And it's like every single one of them was running Leaf Shade, which just like goes to show how busted degens are. The fact that everyone's like, we have to take these nodes on our build because degens are fucking destroying us.
Chris Wilson is listening. He's like, too easy to acquire ailment immunity. Got it. Nerfing.
To be fair, what was it? Last league or the one before, they did throw a bunch more ailment immunity tools into the game. Like, there's ailment immunity tools on essences. There's ailment immunity from like Pantheon upgrades. There's ailment immunity from implicits with the new influence.
And then they threw a wrench in the whole thing, because it's like, oh, you have that thing, which you kind of have to have, but you also need to be really fast. You can never stop. You can never, right? They just add like another list of things of how every build has to be. I think something, I don't know. So this is the thing. I don't understand why they felt like this was needed in the game. Like at such an early, at such an early stage and everywhere. Like, because I feel like they had the I don't know what it is, but like the map mods used to all like, once you entered maps, there was like, you could like chill and do white maps and such, but you also like, so the thing is like, the reason why you would upgrade your maps to run them blue or yellow is because you're actually looking for the drops, and you would naturally like, you would run out of maps or not get enough currency. Now like the currency comes from like some mechanic, right? It's no longer like tied to like a map mod. You can always generate currency outside of difficulty. That's always available. I mean, I guess you could, and so like it's like they're just like adding difficulty everywhere, and I just don't see the point, because like there are so many mechanics in the game that's shown that if you allow to stack certain things to juice things up, players will naturally do so without them having to basically shove it in your face. And so the only thing you're doing is that you're basically like denying people to basically approach the game from a experimental kind of point of view, where, because it just doesn't feel good. Like, you try like a new ailment, it's like it gets nullified, or you try like a build that, if you're not very knowledgeable in PoE right now, you will run into so many issues with like, why is this not taking any damage? Why can I deal with this? I can never do damage because I can't stand still. And like, there's just all these issues constantly, and you never get to opt into trying out that challenge yourself. And that's why I don't because Archnemesis, what it does, it makes like anything map wise, it just becomes the same. I really think it does. Like, I go into a map and it's the same thing I'm worried about every time. like the same like combos. I feel like that's just every time rather than it's like, and it really frustrates me because I remember this so vividly from Diablo 3 that all you're worried about was like jailer plus arc beam spinny thing, or like bombs coming out or flickering on you, and it's the same issue. Like I just don't get it.
I see what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you're
sort
no
of
longer
like
scared about the monsters. You're scared about this random universal
and
bullshit.
you're not
Yeah.
opting into like a new challenge, a different challenge. It just confungles into the same thing.
Yeah.
it saps the identity from all the other mechanics. You know, like you're not scared of a legion because of the legion mobs. You're scared of a legion because it's a ton of rares in one place.
Yeah.
See, but you're like looking, Nugi. I can hear it in your voice. You said yourself like you don't get it. Like what was the driving reason?
Yes.
I think they just like went, this is so cool, and they put it in the game, and it's just not that cool. Like I don't know. Like I think that drives them so many times where they're just like, yeah, we're finally doing this thing that we've been planning. Oh, it's been on the spreadsheet for 7 years, or it's finally going through, and it's like, ooh. So you got to think about this for a little bit longer.
I do see where they were coming from. Oh, go ahead, Ziggy.
I was just gonna say, I think Nugi's comments earlier about when he was talking about rowers and like identifiable threats, and these comments just now really hone in on something important to me. Like, you can't really look at things and tell what's dangerous now. Like, yes, some of the modifiers and stuff are specifically identifiable, but everything is just being blended into a mush of danger. And there's like random insect where the mechanics are the threat, and then scary monster where it has normal mod, so it's not a threat. I do really miss being able to like look at things and think, "Oh, that's a dangerous thing." You know, that Legion Shield Bashy guy is scary. Like it's much more about like I think you put it really well with that Diablo 3 reference, Snoogie. But yeah,
I've been worried ever since they did Nemesis mod and Bloodlines. It was my biggest worry that it would turn, but it didn't really turn into that. They kind of like sorted it and took a lot of it away, but and so like.
See, that's
like,
what I'm
would be
trying to
nice.
understand, because I don't really get how it's that different. Like, there's more of it, so I feel it more. But like, that's kind of what Nemesis always was, and they were so like when Bloodlines came out, they were so stubborn about this shit.
Oh yeah.
A lot
Like
of
the Phylacteral Link and
Oh.
Necrovigil. Oh my god! Chris was like, "No, this is good." We're like, "Dude, this is unplayable." He's like, "No, this." It took them like 2 months to eventually finally change it after like 3 different manifestos. It was crazy.
Raiz, do you mind just because a lot of people won't know what Phylacteral Link is? Do you mind just telling people the joys of Phylacteral Link?
Sure. So you've got a pack of like 30 mobs, the same way that you do in that one map, Crystal Ore. You know how you have 3 bosses and you can only attack one at a time because it's got a moving buff? Yeah, that would happen to blue mobs.
And the
30
pack would
blue
be
mobs.
split between rooms. Like half of them would be in one server room, the other would be in the other. It's like, oh.
Yes, and if you didn't like, and you have to like literally kill them in order because they would take like 10 minutes to switch. And Necrovigil was even better. So when a mob would die inside of a pack, it would drop a ring of immunity that was fairly large. And until you removed the corpse of that mob or moved them, which there weren't that many tools to do, or you moved the mobs off of the ring, you couldn't kill them. You had to, and even if you were to move the mobs, the next mob you killed would spawn a new fucking ring.
Yeah.
Like, so you have to kill them one by one, or kill one, remove a corpse, which again, there just weren't that many tools. Nowadays, it's like you fucking cast one spell, everything goes away, but there were no like flesh offerings or anything. It was, and they were avid about this being good for the game. And those were like the defensive things, those were just annoying. There were so many things that were like just would assault you in like super annoying ways. So I don't know.
I would
I don't
actually
get it.
argue that I think old Bloodlines is better than what we have now, and I'll tell you why. It's because it kind of like it makes it a little bit more of a different experience like every pack. Because like the Necrovigil and all these things, right? You would find ways to like kind of like maneuver around in the map or like maneuver monsters. But let me explain here.
Uninstalling the game was the only way
I
to maneuver.
know why it's annoying, but it's just like just a bit of like, this was so long ago, and
Yes.
just the fact that I think that was better is kind of worrisome, at least for me, because like at least it was like a single thing at a time. It created like an experience, like a different some different gameplay, and it kind of like, because they were trying to stop the just click once on the thing and everything nice blows up kind of thing. I think like they're trying to like kind of like alter
Yes.
that from just being like too one-dimensional. So I get that, but I think adding too much creates the same problem.
I mean,
And
how...
I do agree
Oh,
that
sorry.
Necrovigil was like, it became very tedious to play, and so it's obviously not the way to go either.
How many years, sorry, did we have old Volatile? Because that was like a long time, right?
It was many years.
Yeah.
So old Volatile, people who don't know, is it would just be an instant explosion
on the monster.
on the monster. Just instant.
And it would-
like if you, I played Flicker Strike back when that was a thing that existed. And I did play in softcore then, so it wasn't as big a problem. But yeah, if you flickered next to an old volatile mob and you weren't like super tanky, you just died.
It
and
was
it's
not even
scaled with
flickering,
attack.
Yeah,
it's scaled with main hand attack damage, so
Yes.
it wouldn't be like now where it like explodes and it kind of does them. No, like
It was
you
like...
kill a golem, you're dead.
Yeah.
Like
Strangely
it
enough,
doesn't chase you just die.
the necromancers that would like summon zombies and stuff had weirdly high main hand attack
They would like
damage.
slap
so
people.
they would insta kill you.
Yeah.
I think one of the going back to like current Archnemesis, I think one of the other issues is like Archnemesis, from what we heard from Chris, and I think from what we read in the pre-release notes and stuff, was meant to sort of deal with a lot of the readability and visibility problems on mobs, and I don't think it solved that. But I think even in as far as just like the names of some of these monsters are a little not fit for that purpose. Like Gargantuan makes the monster deal more damage, which I wouldn't have expected. I mean, I guess bigger dude hits harder. That makes some sense. But like also steel infused makes them overwhelm a certain amount of physical damage, which I can see that link. But again, I would have expected steel infused to be like a defensive thing.
Yeah.
Assassin is also a defensive thing for the monster, because I don't believe assassin enemies take as much damage unless they've been hit recently. So if you're like a pure dot build and you're not hitting things at all, they're going to take a bunch less damage.
Before they nerfed
you
it,
can
they
do
took
How about
no bonus
Rejuvenator
damage from
turning off
crits.
healing?
Oh, they
That's
nerfed
my
that?
favorite.
Oh, thank God.
Though I think that's only a reduction now, but yeah, still.
Okay.
Ziggy's right. Rejuvenator turning off healing.
Makes sense.
Cool.
What?
It makes
Yep,
makes
turns
perfect
It does?
sense.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rejuvenator
come on.
places like little, like you can't see them, but like little sparkles, and those things turn off healing.
It puts
Okay.
spores on you, is I think what the
Yeah.
debuff is when you get affected by
Okay.
it. So the Rejuvenator monster is apparently covered in mushrooms.
That sounds something like a corruptor would do, but I guess not.
That
Yeah.
debuff thing I think is also a good point. So this was something I asked on Faded Connections and no one could really answer it. When you guys are mapping, can you tell me what every single debuff on your character does? Because I can't anymore.
No.
I haven't been able to for a while.
I tried hovering over them. It's like there's so many. There's just so many of them.
I've learned what the Executioner debuff looks like,
Oh yeah.
because that one is disgustingly dangerous. But I haven't learned them all, no. But I've learned that one. It's like a red frisbee made out of blood.
Mm.
I just assume like anything red is basically like,
Red
pure
bad, run
death.
away.
Red is really bad. I don't know. Everything red is really bad.
I think also one thing that we haven't really touched upon is also the fact that a lot of these Archnemesis mods just like brick mechanics. So like stuff like Assassin and Trickster ruins Blight. Trickster with stuff like Harvest is really bad. Like from a softcore point of view, I've been blocking a lot of mechanics that I originally wanted to run because I would never touch them. So Ziggy, out of interest, have you like blocked League mechanics just because you're like, this is just awful to play with?
I love the League mechanic blocking. Oh yeah, I've gone nuts on it.
But no, what I mean is like, have you blocked any modifier specifically because of Archnemesis, or just because like, oh, I just don't like Metamorph, I'm gonna block Metamorph?
I was thinking I had Delirium on, and because it's like so it's nice getting a Delirium mirror every so often in the things, but it's actually happening really commonly because I block so many other things, and then it's really aggravating the Archnemesis problem. So I'm actually thinking about blocking Delirium, even though I enjoy doing it. I'm like, oh, I feel like I just have to block this because every time it's just really making the Archnemesis thing a lot worse.
I took
So-
delirium off my Atlas. I had it on, it felt
Yeah,
really
I'm thinking
good.
about taking it off.
And then
yeah.
I was like,
Which
actually,
is that's
I'm
a
gonna take
bummer.
this off.
That's a
Yeah.
bummer. I'm like removing mechanics that I am enjoying otherwise because as much it's fun. It permeates everything. It's in everything. It now is Archnemesis. Like
A little, a
Blight is
little
Archnemesis. Delirium is Archnemesis. Legion is Archnemesis. They're all
That was-
Archnemesis. It wasn't a
heist.
good league, really. It wasn't that good.
It wasn't
And
my. It
everything
was
is
my
Archnemesis
biggest
now.
shock. Like when I saw Blight had Archnemesis, I'm just like, they're crazy.
One consequence of it that is more like a little bit of comic relief because this has been very serious. The Juggernaut mod makes it so that monsters can't be slowed below base movement speed, and the base movement speed of the robots that patrol around in Heist is apparently incredibly high. So if they get Juggernaut, they zip around at Mach 5. It's great.
God.
But yeah, most of the time it's very frustrating to get Archnem mods in the wrong place and not funny.
Mm.
I haven't even tried Heist, but I heard the doors with rares stacked behind them are pretty fun now.
I
again.
haven't tried Heist. I can imagine that it's awful.
I'm never trying Heist again. As far as I'm concerned, it's 2% extra for all my other mechanics. Hell yeah. I love the Atlas. Holy shit. I love how they went. I mean, Heist in particular is kind of easy. Like you just filter it out and it's no problem. But so much of the other shit. But I really love the agency that they just gave us.
It's
They were
really
like,
good.
no, you don't have any control. It's all random. Elder rings, fucking sextant blocking, any of that. No, it's bad for you. You think you do, but you don't. And now they're just like full blown. You do whatever you want, gamer. And
It's great.
it's improved the game so much. It's crazy how hung up
And-
we were on this like ideology of controlling what the player does. It's nuts.
And the keystones are very well done, I think. Like I haven't used every single one yet. I haven't used the Uber boss ones yet because I'm still getting through the core bosses. But a lot of the ones that, aren't boss related and just interact with how the Atlas functions, I either have used or am planning to test at some point because they're interesting. I think they did a pretty good job on them all.
There is one keystone that's not particularly well done, however.
Which one's
It's the
that?
one
one?
The
where
favored map
you
one?
get extra juice, but you can't use any fragments on your Atlas.
Oh, that one's OP.
So many people get so confused
Oh.
about that because they try to use
Divine.
divine vessels
Mm.
to
Oh,
get their
yes.
pantheon, and it just doesn't work. So this is
Yes.
a public service announcement for anyone who's having that issue and is like reporting on the bug forums.
It should just not be a
You
fragment.
have to
Straight up.
you have to unspec
Yeah.
it, but like
It makes sense.
No,
Divine
no,
the
vessels are
fragments
weird.
out, but
It just they need to just not have it be a fragment. I just
They're
don't.
weird.
Just stop. Just stop.
They're-
I
both a
don't
fragment
care.
and a
Just fix
currency.
it. Yes.
They drop from Arcanist boxes. Like they're
true,
a
yeah.
currency as well.
Mm.
They're very strange.
That node is
love
so
that
good
keystone,
though
though,
because it
apart
gives
from
you
that.
like 40% chance on your league mechanics because it scales the
50.
base. So good. So good.
It's good.
Since we're talking about Atlas, is there anything that you guys want to finish on when it comes to Archnemesis, or should we move on now?
I can rant about the hundreds of things I dislike about it.
Do you want to just give
Non-stop, so.
it another go on,
Some
give it another
specifics.
closing summary, Ziggy? Go on. I like angry Ziggy. It's
Okay,
good.
all right. Okay. It's everywhere. It has many, many slows of different types. Doesn't matter how many slows you make yourself immune to, you're going to get slowed a lot. Taking control away from players, really unfun. Turning mana off, really unfun. Disable mana leech? Nah. Not being able to use our skills? Ugh. Being stuck in place, having the things that you specifically invest in for your builds turned off, shit constantly flying around. It doesn't matter what the monster type is. Now they drop toxic orbs on your head, or they spawn lightning things underneath you that chase you around. Everything feels really oppressive. Degens everywhere. Mechanics getting bricked by the specific by Archnemesis modifiers, specifically and unspecifically. Everything feels like Archnemesis now. A mechanic that was designed for player decision making is now just randomly sprinkled around everywhere. You can band-aid it really effectively by lowering, damage numbers and stuff like that, and it has happened, but it doesn't change the fact that, like, just inherently a lot of these things are really unfun.
Hmm.
So, even though it's like less of a problem now what is the upside? I don't understand what the upside is here. Like, and
The
I'm
sick
inherently
loot
not against the
drops.
idea of like
The
making
loot drops,
rares and
Ziggy.
magic monsters more substantial. But this doesn't feel like the right way. I don't know.
So, out of interest, because that's a big thing people can talk about is the loot. If they dropped crazy loot, would you still feel like this is crazy oppressive and I don't like it?
Yeah, I mean, because the gameplay is not fun anymore. Like, there's only so much you can like cover things up with loot. Like, we're willing to tolerate a lot for good loot, but then there's just like everything's going to be dropping a ton of loot from this. Like, if it was that very occasionally you came across an Archnemesis rare and it dropped its full loot and it had crazy modifiers, and it was like really easy to tell, hey, there's an Archnemesis rare over there. Like, holy shit, let's get ready. And then it drops a ton of loot. I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't be so bad.
So
But
basically,
I don't
there's no
think.
fix. There's no way of making
I
this
actually
good.
think so. I think they can take from this and actually implement it into the game in ways that could be really cool. So when you said this thing about Juggernaut, I was like, that's actually so cool. Because you know why? What they could do is they could have like a whole subcategory of Juggernaut mods, like monsters. Like this is a subcategory, right? The Colossus and all those, give them Juggernaut, cap their movement speed, and so you can't slow them. They will always be coming for you, but they can't be like you follow me? Like they could just be categorized as a subtype Juggernaut, and so you realize, okay, these things are things that, okay, they will come for me and they will bonk me, right? That could be really cool.
If you
What you
control
can
the
do, I
category,
think, with
go ahead.
this, I think what you can do with this is like take some of the better ideas and the better implementations of ideas and design monsters or bosses out of them.
Yep.
Yeah. I think there's many good ideas here. There's something that really bothers me is the way these things are statted. So this is the thing we run into a lot when it comes to rebalance and especially league mechanics. Some of them are designed and not refactored in early levels to like they're basically scaled as if players have 75 res or pen or certain things like this. 75 monster resistance in low levels makes no sense. You don't have a penetration gem, it should not exist. I think that bothered me so much that they allowed these things to be in early acts. Like at least either Archnemesis should not be allowed before you like those mods should not be allowed before you have the tool, because that's just bullshit. Or they need to like maybe say a third of the power of those stats before maps. White maps, yellow maps, you know, you could scale up to 50% power. Red maps, full power. Fine, right? Do it that way. You need to allow the player to have a tool to deal with the challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of the case before when we had more of a gradient of rares. When we had, you know, this is a regular rare, this is a Nemesis rare, and then even past that, having the really dangerous Nemesis mods. Like, you wouldn't see a Corrupting Blood rare. And I don't know if you do see a Corrupting Blood rare spawn early on, but you would never see a Corrupting Blood rare spawn early on because Nemesis rares just couldn't spawn in the first few acts. You only had basic rares. But now there is no basic rare. I mean, I guess there's gradation among the Arch Nemesis mods because there are some that can't show up in the early acts. But there really isn't. There really isn't an Arch Nemesis mod that isn't like dangerous if you consider it from the spectrum of all builds people could be playing. Like, yeah, Stormstrider isn't really that bad if you're doing something like, I don't know, Freezing Pulse leveling. But if you're doing Orb of Storms and Stormblast Mine leveling, it's extremely frustrating and you just walk past it every single time. I don't know.
You just reminded me of another thing that is really problematic with Archnemesis and also kind of in general. Hasted monsters. I feel like GGG should be extremely careful with how much attack speed, cast speed, move speed they're giving monsters, because you talked about like players having tools earlier. Someone mentioned that. I was like, oh man, hasted things just, it doesn't matter what tools you have. It takes away all of the tools from the player if the monster teleports to you and goes and you die before you can do anything.
You know what I actually really like though from the Archnem mobs are the ones that show up the least frequently. I love the implementation of like Solaris Touch, Lunaris Touch, Brine King Touch,
really
all
cool.
of those, because they just have essentially base stat buff. Like they have, I think they have like 20% more life, 20% more damage, something like that, and then cool area denial things that you interact with. Can we invert those ratios where we have like those showing up much more often. Maybe
Well,
not
they're gonna be
invert the
rare,
ratios. It
though.
would be too many
I
at
don't
that
want
point.
that.
But like,
If everything
I don't
else
know.
was taken away and like occasionally a rare summoned a specter of a god that like,
Yeah,
like giant spider lady appears and did stuff, I was like, I wouldn't have a problem with this at all. I think that I was like, okay,
those
it's a
those
little
are the
weird,
cool
but sure,
ones.
that's fun. You know?
Those and like, I don't know. I maybe I'll catch some flack for this, but I don't really mind the Frostwall one. I feel like they were fairly generous with the implementation of that. It's relatively easy to get out of, and if it spawns against a wall, there is always a gap between the Frostwall spawning and the bit of terrain that it spawned against. Like, I would much rather fight that than fight an Executioner or fight a Vampiric monster, where it's just like this dude has stats that counter you or set you to half health.
Honestly, everything that I'm hearing is GGG fucked up. But their idea of what they wanted to do was correct. But they targeted the wrong league. Instead of doing Archnemesis, they should have done Arch Exiles. Like, straight up, visually clear what they
Yep.
do. You have an idea. They like represent the skills that you're usually are familiar with or like become familiar very soon. Exiles roamed the lands and they were something to really be scared of for a while. I don't know. I feel like they would have like taken away the randomization that we have such a problem with while simultaneously addressing the issue that they have, which is visual clarity. I feel like Exile's really accomplished that well. So
It does what Nugi and I were saying as well, where like it's the mechanic is designed into the monster. Like this is the thing that is a juggernaut because like literally it's a gigantic marauder, dude.
Yeah.
Who's unstoppable. That mechanic is like part of that thing. So it's visually
yeah.
recognizable. You know what it is. We know what it does.
I'm sad we can't get the super mega prophecy enhanced version of Rogue Exiles anymore. Man, getting ground slammed into the dirt by a Meroiarchy wielding maniac who has a tormented spirit buff and 2 shrines.
Can you add a lot though can you get a lot of Rogue
You
Exiles?
can get some pretty spooky ones. You can get
Yeah.
them guaranteed tormented with like double life and damage or something from the tree.
Now
I forget exactly
you
what.
think that's spooky? I was honestly considering getting all Rogue Exile and just having as little Nemesis mod because I would rather have that and use Sentinels on it than fucking deal with Archnemesis. That's where we're at. Like that's what I was really considering. Just like, oh, maybe I can do Archnemesis or Rogue Exiles rather than Archnemesis because at least that I can deal with.
And I'm like thinking because like Exiles are kind of a pushover at this point. Obviously, like they haven't really been getting updated other than like a couple releases of new ones. But even the precinct boss, the way that it functions, like it's pretty tanky. I think
Yeah.
they're pretty well balanced. And if Exiles would roam like warbands used to in a group of like 3 or 2, then they have the randomization that they also want. They want like a random combination of shit on a monster. Well, now you've got 3 monsters that you can deal with in like a way depending on the combination of things that they have. Honestly,
Yeah.
like you can split them up, you can fight them like straight on. I don't know. I feel like you could really do a lot with that. And again, precinct boss is not really a pushover. Sometimes you get 1 exile and it's like, okay, this is kind of tanky, but I can kill it. Sometimes you get the Roa Milady and then like Igna and a bunch of other shit, and suddenly you really need to split them up.
Yeah.
It's such a good fit for PoE too, because we're like exiles going into maps to go get loot, and there's other greedy, hostile exiles
Right?
going into maps to get loot that we're fighting,
Yeah, that's
without
good.
opening up the whole PvP
Mhm.
can of worms, because that's not many people actually want that. It's such a good fit for the game. It's so cool.
I
To
wonder.
backtrack a little bit, yes, I was gonna say actually exactly what Octavian said. The thing which I find funny is like the Aberrath Touch, Innocence Touched. Those are substantially easier because they don't have any immunities.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. I've never on my current build been like, oh no, it's that thing. I'm like, oh cool, it's Innocence. Like, and that's it.
For half of them, the reason I realized that I had killed a touched monster is because the challenge notification popped up.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I didn't see the rare or any of the effects it had because it just died to my Call of Steel overlap in the middle of a pack, and it's just like, whoa, I guess I got some challenge progress. Cool.
Yeah, generally my experience with Archnemesis is, because my build does a lot of damage, 95% of rares I don't notice. And then if it's still alive after I've thrown a couple of traps at it, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And it's just like stacked like plus 50 lightning res immune to shock and like rejuve. I'm like, oh, that's why. And then I stand there for a bit longer. Or it'll be like an essence mob with a couple of nasty Archnemesis things on there. One thing that I think was a really missed opportunity, because I really like this idea of like the Rogue Exile thing. I feel like if they want to have these really scary ones, it should be something that you spec into. You know, there's the Atlas tree node, which is like 1 extra Archnemesis modifier. I think it would have been really cool if they put the most like bullshit ones on that. So it's like you spec into this, you get like you unlock the most bullshit ones. But you know how like when you kill a map boss, it's like a chance to drop Guardian maps? You do something like that. So it's like if you kill one of these Archnemesis guys, 3% chance to drop the Guardian map. And then it's like, okay, I'm playing a bossing character. I want like hella bosses in all my maps. I'm gonna spec into it so every rare is a boss. Let's go.
Yeah, I got a similar suggestion from my chat of having like the really, really frustrating ones be lumped into a map mod that would roll with like rare monsters are more deadly, but also have a reward attached. Like rare monsters drop an additional or 2 additional basic currency items, like the old Sextant mod.
I don't think that does it though, because the problem is it's not even the really frustrating ones that are the whole problem. It's not like that specifically some of these modifiers are really frustrating. Like yes, some are, but that suggests that like just fixing a couple frustrating things will fix the problem overall. I think the problem is just that as a whole, like all of these things spawning degens and hasting the
I mean, yeah,
monsters and
that needs
disabling mechanics and
addressing.
being
Yeah.
immune to stuff. So you can have like a thing that's like, well, it's like, oh, well, yeah, only the frustrating ones are behind a keystone or whatever. That the problem is, it's like the whole thing as a whole is frustrating.
I
All
mean,
of it.
to be fair, in my
Just put
mind,
the whole
like
thing behind a
take the
keystone,
frustrating
sure.
ones. There are 80 mods. That'd probably be like 40 of them. It wouldn't be like 4. It would be like half of the pool would be on there.
That makes me think also, if anybody from GGG is listening and they're like, yeah, the Exiles thing is not a bad idea, do not take the guys from Hall of Grandmasters, okay? Please. Because like that's such a GGG thing to do. They're just like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't we make this immune guy and this guy that absolutely opens your bungus instantly? And like, oh no, just it would be such a GGG thing to do. So please,
chat
that's
mentioned that.
not that would be the worst timeline.
Every single
Someone
like
chat mentioned
Exile
that,
is
and
like
I'm like,
1,000 global multi lightning arrow CI build. Let's go.
there's a big difference between like designing a mechanic, like the devs designing a mechanic for us to play with, versus like players intentionally designing exiles to troll us, because that's what
Yep.
that's what Call of the Grandmasters was. But then again, I don't know, maybe the difference isn't that there isn't that big a gap between it now. I don't know. Not just
It's
saying
terrifying.
Right, Atlas time.
Yeah.
I don't think we can make any promises that Archnem won't.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will come back up.
It's interweaved into everything. Whatever we talk about, I can bring up Archnemesis. Doesn't matter what you want to talk about.
I think an interesting thing, because this is one thing with Path of Exile now. It's so hard to kind of gauge where people are at, because it's like, what's your Atlas tree spec'd into? So briefly, what is everyone's spec the Atlas for? Nugi, what mechanics are you spec'd into currently?
Ooh, okay. I'm full expedition. Good amount of abyss. And then I have all like the progression nodes, like the +1 tiers and the Kirak stuff, and strong boxes. Because I feel like all those play very well with the league mechanic. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
Octavian?
I am looking to do Uber Elder next, so I spec my tree into the nodes that drop Shaper and Elder maps, and the nodes that drop Conqueror maps, because I still need to do Cyrus as well. And other than that, I'm in things that I can do quickly so I can get to the next map. So shrines, strong boxes, essences, and heist nodes to get a bunch of blueprints for farming alt qualities, because you kind of have to farm them yourself in hardcore trade.
Rise?
I had Harvest and Expedition, but I also was fully spec'd into Legion because I needed Glorious Vanity, which was really cool that I was able to spec into it, just get out of there. And that allowed me to, although I'm beginning to hate Harvest, I'm probably going to get rid of Harvest to, among like having all of the map stuff, all of the map progression stuff, spec into a bunch of endgame shit so that I could progress towards bosses a little bit faster to get my melding and whatnot. So it's mostly been it. Expedition's been a big focus for me for sure. It's a lot of fun.
Ziggy?
Shrines. I love the shrine nodes. Oh,
Yeah.
always take the shrine nodes. The double shrine that lasts forever. Oh, love it. Acceleration every map. Love it. So good. So the shrines, expedition, eater, progression, and I like to go into the either usually like conquerors or shaper elder stuff for getting the maps. I like it when the bosses drop the cool maps. That's good content.
Yep.
Plus, there's no Archnemesis monsters inside of the boss fights. That's like the one place where we're safe.
You're
from
safe.
them.
Nice. I did end up specking into Essence eventually too. It's not as bad as I anticipated it's gonna be with Archnemesis. I thought it's gonna be
you
way
didn't
more
have it from the
annoying.
beginning. If you'd
Yeah,
had
yeah,
it early
I
on,
fully
my
pushed out. I was
God.
like, I'm playing an RF build. Of course, I'm gonna spec into Essence. I need all the essences. And then I started thinking about it, like, okay, hold up. And then I didn't until I think like
You know
the
what's-
third wave of nerfs.
You know what I was actually surprised has saved my bacon against dangerous essence monsters more than anything else is Herald of Purity. Because essence monsters are
Ah,
stupid
yeah, yeah.
and they
Mhm.
just keep attacking the minions.
Yep.
So I can stay at arm's length, despite being an ostensibly melee build with Shield Crush, the AoE that covers half the screen. I can stay at arm's length and they'll just keep attacking my Purity minions until they die. It's great.
I rushed full essence. That was the first thing I did. Full essence blocked harvest because fuck, everyone's like, you have to have harvest in SF. No, harvest is a shit mechanic. And then I have to say, I felt really smug that I blocked harvest when I saw everyone complaining about how bad harvest was with Archnemesis. I'm like, yeah, fuck you. So I blocked harvest instantly, went full essence, and then after I got essence, I then picked up the you get 10 syndicate like completion on every map, and then full expedition. And I was full essence, expedition, and eldritch altars for like the first 5 days, and then in the last 4 however many days into the league we are, I expect to have all of the expedition. I expect to have half of the essence stuff. I've now just got like the +1 tier and full legion, full breach, and it feels so good. And then I've got the conqueror node so that I get more maps and stream of consciousness plus shadow shaping. So I'm getting all my 14s blocked, all my 15s blocked. I'm living in courtyard, colonnade, and mesa. It feels so clean. It's just nice layouts. I get instant.
I'm so jealous.
It's so good. It's like every breach I do is just like instant. The boss spawns, drops 20 splinters. I click once. So that's like, oh, that's a 5th of a breach stone. It feels like every legion I do, I proc the node. So it's like, oh, Maraketh emblem. Ooh, timeless emblem. So good. So good.
It's like Harvest, this league fully encapsulates like you think you do, but you don't for me.
Fuck that.
Like, holy shit. It feels like I spend more time in Harvest than like any other part of the game combined. Like, I hate it. I don't know. I like Harvest. I just, in this quantity, it's crazy. Like, I am fully spec'd into it. I'll still run past it sometimes. I'm just like, not today, bitch. I
Just
want
pretend
it.
you don't see it. Pretend it's
But-
not there.
I do that shit all the time. I don't know. I'm like, yeah.
I
This
mean-
map's too hard. I'm not doing Harvest. It's like 0 damage mods. I'm like, good choice. I'm being smart. No, I'm being lazy.
That's so funny. You like block so many things so you like max out your harvest spawn rate, and then you're like, no.
What's that? It
You
turns
don't
out
even
having
like go in
harvest
just like
every
to
other
pass
map-
just to see what you have, like what spawn, like what
Sometimes
flowers?
I'll go in and I'll just go, no. All these nodes are bad. I don't need any of the stuff, and I'll just walk out instantly after like half a circle. The worst one is when you've got the node that like keeps the other one sometimes, but the other one's like shit, but it's kind of okay, and I'm just like, God damn it, wait did
Sleep
I
it.
gotta do it, but then I hate it. Like,
Chat's
why did
gonna
spec
bully
into
me if
this
I
node?
don't.
Just block it,
I don't know.
dude.
I look at because like I forgot that I spec full into harvest as well. Like I don't know. I think it's nice that we have like 3 times as much as normal because then you can just be picky
Crazy.
and choosy. It's so much better. Right? You get all the
Yeah.
good plots and you just ignore everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I have been tired of Harvest for a number of leagues now, and every time I go to craft something, it feels like you inevitably hit that step where Harvest is like the best choice for finishing it.
Yeah.
Whether it's like locking prefixes and rerolling, or rolling caster rerolls to get a curse on hit ring or something. And I like that you can block a ton of stuff, go full harvest investment, and hopefully get it done in a few dozen to like 50, 60 maps or something at most. It's like taking your medicine that you don't like all in one swig instead of having to take little bits at a time over the course of the whole day.
Right.
I just have
Or-
FOMO too, I see people get like Goratha's like, oh, double 6 link, 1 harvest plot. I'm just like, I want that too. And then I keep running it. It's just like never.
Or
It
hear
just
me
doesn't
out.
happen.
You block harvest and you have Breach and Legion in like every fucking map, and you
You
enjoy
tried
the video
Breach
game.
in
Breach is-
hardcore? Okay, I'm
ugh.
telling you.
Breach is
Okay,
actually
I
really
did
easy.
the first Breach I did was an
Same.
S Breach,
Hmm
and I was not sure whether or not it was Esh or just a rare because it was an Echoist. It was like, I was like, what the fuck?
Breach is crazy.
On the topic of Echoist, it's only somewhat related. But if you want to run Headhunter or Inspired Learning or something like that now, you essentially need stun immunity, because the way that Echoist works is you repeat the abilities and then are stunned for a second.
Oh,
And I'm pretty sure, I don't have a Headhunter, but I'm pretty sure that translates over to the player as well. So
Mhm.
after attacking or using a spell or something, you would self-stun for a second after repeating it,
Oh.
unless you're stun immune.
Oh my god.
I think a lot of that comes down to build though. So because I'm lightning trap, my like screen clear is absolutely insane. So Breach is super easy. Breach I find really easy. Legion I find really easy. Like a Legion encounter is easier than just like the average Archnemesis mod. I don't know why. I don't know how that works, but it's like a Maraketh Archnemesis is easier than just like a native Archnemesis rare. I don't know why.
I agree. I don't understand how I didn't die to Legion. I ran Legion because I had to do 7 3-ways to get my Glorious Vanity. I was shocked that I just didn't die to it. I never even took like substantial damage. I don't know.
It
It's kind
may
of
be to
sus.
do with, I mean, you were playing an RF build, right, Rise? So this
Right,
might
but
not
like
apply to you
prior
quite
to
as
it
much.
having, I mean, it was like prior to it having virtually any defense. And I mean, let's be fair, like with
No,
Legion, if you get a spear chucked at you, like it doesn't matter what you're playing.
I was
You're
gonna
dead.
go in a different direction, because Tarke is
Oh,
playing the lightning trap, so I figure like Legion gives him the opportunity to stack some damage and maybe cut down the dangerous rare if it's not one of the
Maybe.
super thick tanky ones. But
sure.
that's not really the case with an RF build. That's not
Mm-mm.
exactly burst damage focused.
What you trying to say? Where it
It's a
kills
damage
everything
over
instantly.
time build, sir. That's all I'm trying to say.
Damage over time doesn't exist in PoE anymore. It's just instantaneous. Unless you're playing Toxic Rain,
Mm.
then it's Pain Champ for me. But I see where you're coming from, for sure.
Are there no like okay? So what you're playing? What build exactly with the art? Like, were you playing in Archnemesis with RF and Fire Trap?
Yeah.
Or
Oh, in Arch Nemesis?
yeah.
No. In
Oh
Arch
right.
Nemesis League, I didn't play RF.
Oh, so you didn't play like dot builds? Because I'm really curious, like how dot builds feel right now. Because like
Oh,
yeah. Especially
I
like
think
fire dot. Because like I would assume you run into like the Omega less ignite time or whatever, and 75 fire res
it's
like
amazing.
pretty frequently.
Damage over time is seriously back where it should be, except Essence Drain. Buff Essence Drain,
I
You
think
nerf it too
Chaos
much.
dot is generally in a
Alright.
not great spot, but like
Okay.
fire trap damage
weird,
is
yeah.
nutty, and like RF damage is nutty.
Even Cold Dot gets a lot of bad rep, but it's solid, It really gets there. It gets
Uh-huh.
crazy too when everything's 40% slowed.
Yeah, I mean
Woo!
that works really well in this league.
Game
sure.
feels nice.
Yeah.
Unless you meet
the
the one of those bears with frenzied from Harvest, and yeah,
Or a
40% slow. Yeah, all of a sudden it doesn't do anything. Who would have thought?
I was gonna say when I'm finished with this character, I'm gonna try Caustic Arrow. So on the next Baeclast, I'll get back to you. I think it will.
What?
It'll. I know, right?
Caustic?
Very
What? No
out of
way.
character for me. It will either be really great because I just never need to stand still, or it'll be like fuck, my damage is trash. But I got a again, poor RNG. I got a fractured +1 all gems bow, so I'm like I could craft something like dirty with this.
Oh, the
Oh no, fractured
recombinators.
socketed +1. So not all
Yes.
Yes,
gems.
recombinators are good.
But can't you
Recombos.
can't you take the recombinator and something like that and like just annul it all the way down and combine it with something else?
Yep.
Doesn't that work?
Yeah, and you can
Oh,
do
the
like
funniest thing.
double fractures
Did you
as
see the
well.
double claw
What's the double claw?
recombinator? Wait, I'm
What
not
does
sure
double claw
if I
mean?
dreamt this or whatever. maybe I dreamt this. I just remember or maybe it was a meme where it took the life gain on hit from the implicit.
Oh, the implicit got doubled?
No,
What?
what?
Like instead of taking the tyrannical or flaring or whatever, or like attack speed, it was like some Ellie claw. It took. I'm pretty sure it took the life gain on hit.
This sounds like a dream. Yes.
Maybe it's a dream. I don't know.
This sounds-
I
yeah.
think this might have been a dream.
There is
Maybe
an
it's some, like,
Elder mod that
bug.
does something like that.
Was it a bug? Maybe.
Maybe.
There was a funny bug where you could recombinate your energy blade.
Oh yeah, that was good. The guy
And
bricked his
it-
character.
Yes, it would simply break your character. You could no longer log into that character
Oh.
after you did it.
What?
So don't. It's been fixed now, I believe. But just in case, don't do that.
No, he's saying do it. Do it now. Everyone test it real quick. For
That's
the tens
cool.
of energy blade characters watching this podcast right now.
I love these things that the devs have to test for. It's like, what if someone tries to recombinate the energy blade?
Did you
Like, well, I didn't think to text that.
Did you instantly try and put a incubator onto your Sentinel the first time you got one, or
I haven't tried
didn't
that
think
yet.
about that.
Huh.
because when they implemented Watchstones, you could put an incubator onto a Watchstone, which
Mm.
was completely pointless.
Oh,
You could not
okay.
then get the incubated item out of it. It did nothing. But I wanted to see if it would work on a Sentinel, and it didn't. They thought of that.
I was even surprised at the double fracturing and shit like that. I don't know. I was pretty surprised that that's. I mean, I would assume apparently intended since they're not like addressing it in any way. It's pretty crazy. It's not the sort of thing that I would ever anticipate GGG would want in their game. I mean, can you get more than 2?
Fractured? Yeah, I've seen a 4 fractured item from
That's,
continual recombination and very good RNG.
that sounds crazy.
That is the most I've had linked to me, though, so I don't know if it's possible to go further than that.
Well, I mean, what's the point of going
that's a
further with
lot.
fractured, right? Like, let's make a 6 fractured item just because.
It's just
Because
called
why
an
not?
item.
I can't wait to craft my 6 fractured item.
I bet Gassy would have loved 4 fractured mods on his helmet.
You just
Jesus
spam the
Christ.
5th one and then
Too far.
It's
No, man.
The funny thing is that's it's
Oh.
genuinely the only video of his I've seen this league, and I managed to mention it on the last podcast. I feel like every podcast just needs to mention his helm. Yeah.
I love you, Gazzy.
Yeah.
I love how this video is just like him being super sad, and he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
at least I have 3K subs. That's cool. I'll see you guys later. Bye." And he just logs off. Just like, fuck. He handled that well.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, props to him.
Recombinate is good though. It's interesting because I'm really in favor of deterministic crafting stuff in the hands of the players. The recombinate is literally the opposite of that. It's like full gamble crafting, but it's really well executed gamble crafting. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
It's gambling where you have a lot of control over the degree of gambling that you're doing. Because
That's the good execution, I think.
yeah,
in
you're
giving you that.
controlling like what's going into the slot machine, and also like you could take a couple of items that have like 6 mods on them, and there's like 2 or 3 that you really like, and just hope that it works out. Or you
Mhm.
could start like trying to annul to isolate things, or craft up a couple items from bases to try and isolate
actually-
mods.
Does it help, and how does it help? That's what I've been trying to figure out. Is like I'm trying to like rack my brain over this. It's like, does isolating the mods help? How does it help? In some cases, it feels like it should, because if
So
you've got like 2 items that have 1 suffix each, and then they've got like 3 prefixes each, like it feels like it's going to be harder to get the prefixes you want. But does it actually help? Like,
I'm not 100% an expert on it because there are a lot of little bits, and I haven't done enough recombinating to like feel completely satisfied that I know all the ins and outs. But one thing that I have been told is that if you have more prefixes between the 2 items than can exist on an item, so like more than 3, there's a chance that when it goes through the prefixes choosing what shows up, like one of them that would have shown up if you had had a smaller number gets tossed away because there isn't space for it, so to
You hit
speak.
max, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. So like at a
So,
certain point, like it goes yes, yes, yes. Oh, no more space. Sorry.
or it'll go through and like yes, no, a bunch of them, and then if it has more prefixes than it can handle, it does another check and tosses out if there's more than 3.
Hmm.
That's my understanding of it, but without having like the ability to data mine the game or without asking a dev, I can't be 100% certain.
I'm just super
It's
happy with the drop rate too. It seems like the
Yeah.
sort of thing that in the
Mhm.
past they would be like, yeah, you're not getting any of this shit, but they're fairly common. I mean,
Yeah.
you can really play around with this stuff without feeling like you're shooting yourself in the foot, which is super
Yeah.
cool.
No, I think and we talked about Archnemesis a lot at the top of the show. This kind of leads into it. I think Sentinel is great. Like
Yeah.
I'm a very big fan of the current league mechanic. I One of my pet peeves with Scourge was the passive tree implementation. I made a whole like 15-minute video ranting about only that, and I got very heated about it. And I think every single decision made about this passive tree has rectified that. It makes me so happy. Like there are significant decisions that you need to make. There's opportunity cost, which then allows certain parts of the passive tree to feel like they matter. So you can have strategies instead of just click everything and eventually you get to a super high level and you can literally click everything. And it doesn't even take that long to reach max power or XP or whatever it's called. Like, I think I got it by the time I was level 92 or 93, which, yeah, is a decently leveled character at that point, but that's not that much time investment compared to the length of a whole league.
Quickly, actually, let's do a round table here. People's thoughts on Sentinel. Ziggy.
It gets the maximum ranking for me of a league that doesn't have like cool characters and voices and actual content. You know what I mean? It's not a content league. It doesn't have content. There's no like map you go to or cool boss fight or something like that. It's just a mechanic and loot and then like a crafting system. And it is very well done of those things. So for me, like that maxes out at like 7 out of 10, but it's a very good 7 out of 10, you know? Yeah. So it's missing those things to like take it up to like, whoa, this is like blowing my mind how cool this is. But it's really good for what it is. Really good for what it is.
Raiz?
Sentinel is everything that I wanted it to be without any of the issues that I was worried about. The solution to them is just like don't fucking use more than one Sentinel, which is kind of lame, but I mean, hey, it works for me. I don't feel too bad about it. I wish that they added it last league instead of Archnemesis. I think it would have paired up a lot better with the previous league's Atlas changes, and we wouldn't have to deal with Archnemesis in its current form and like this patch. So I wish they did a switcheroo, but on Sentinel alone, yeah, it's everything that I wanted it to be. Really, really, really well executed. And even on a build that's particularly fucking annoying with it, like Righteous Fire, because it heals mobs. So I'm like trying to degen these mobs while my sentinels like healing them, and now like one
Nope.
mob is dead and one mob is full HP.
Wait,
and
wait,
like
wait,
the,
wait, Rise.
it's a
I thought you
mess.
said you insta killed.
Yeah, when my infernal cry isn't on cooldown, you know. No. Even on a build like that, it still feels super rewarding, super satisfying. And like even I was worried, and I don't really know because I know that people are still experimenting with it. I was worried about like a delirium situation where it's juicing like way too hard, and it's going to become super mandatory. And if you take it away, then the entire player base is going to riot. And I'm not sure where we're at with that, but from what I've seen so far, it is rewarding, but it's not like completely cracked the way that delirium was
It
on its
depends
initial
how
release.
well you roll your sentinels. If you roll your sentinels right, shit's fucking good.
Yeah.
It's very good, but like it's also got a hard cap, unlike something like
Yes.
Delirium, where you could just push and push and push all the way through the end of the map. Like a Sentinel will only affect however many monsters you can roll it, and you can push a Sentinel to affect more with your tree and the Sentinel rolls. But I think that's fine. Like just like the recombinators, there's a decent element of randomness in re-rolling the Sentinels, and eventually every great Sentinel gets taken out of the economy, so to speak, because it turns into unique at eventually. You know, maybe 2 generations down the line, maybe 20, but eventually it will go away and turn into a unique.
and it's meaningful in the way that you use it. It's not like just like a blanket. This map is delirium. That's it. Like you kind of have to like consider some things too there. So that's even better for me.
Nugi?
So the gameplay is great around it. I really like it. I think the path tree is amazing. Really love it. The currencies added in with it, you know, the theme and all of that, really great. Both from like what it can do to items and what it can do to the cumulated. I think that's really great. Like once you have everything sorted and it's in the inventory and you have the things to like set it up, I think it's really great. I absolutely hate that they turned them from corrupted into this unmodifiable thing that you have to ID in a 2x2, so you end up getting like 4. So Chris was like, hey, you're not going to pick very many of these up, but you really want to.
Yeah.
So you have like 4 or 5 of these, eating like half your. It's literally like, I feel like I'm playing D2 with charms.
Yeah,
I
that part
really
is.
do.
And we even
It's
said
just
it.
like,
He was like, "No,
why?
it's gonna be fine." Like that is the one aspect where I'm just
identified.
like,
So that's
Yeah.
like it's like the thing is because there's so many opportunities and you really want to take them all. That's the thing. It's like it's offering this like golden platter of like tasty things, and it's
Yeah,
just like I can't hold it all.
there are single mods that appear on basic Sentinels that
Yeah.
are extremely powerful, like, you know, drop currency or drop Sentinel rewards or drop expedition rewards or something. So like even blue ones, I find myself wanting to pick up because if they have that drop a currency reward thing, I can run that to completion, combine it with another one, run that to completion, combine it with another one, and theoretically get like, I don't know, 30 maps worth of value out of that mod that just showed up.
At least we
I
don't
like
have to
the
pick up
thing.
Apex Sentinels.
Yeah, I ignore those.
I stopped picking them up.
I think so like it's because it's this again, like I had the same issue with expedition where it's like, why do we have to pick these things up the ground that we're then gonna craft with later? Because this is what's really getting me. It's like there's no like there isn't that much like value in like the value of a sentinel only comes once you like actually use it. It's not like you have this like ton of currency or this great item or all this power, right? It's like you first have to like recombinate good stuff together and like choose I'm using this one now and then go into the map and then use it. So I don't get why the obtaining the tools for it needs to be so, I don't know, so like painful.
I think that's a relic because he said that originally they didn't have charges. So I think that element of it is a relic of that idea of them like being infinite. So that you'd eventually like craft all your giga Sentinel and like, okay, I'm done.
Oh, right. But then they should just make it into like a 1x1 or something.
Yeah, I mean, so
so I really like them when they're corrupted as well. I mean, I
they
guess
should
like
drop
it
ID
looks
100%.
Yeah, because then you can just filter them out like immediately.
Yeah.
Like why not? It's just like the only thing you're filtering out. It's like we can filter out an armor scrap. I don't need to ID an armor scrap to see it's an armor scrap. Like if I had to run around ID armor, like this is a currency, ID it. Right?
Oh, God.
I would go mad. And I really feel like these are pieces of currency that turns into something bigger.
It is a little strange because like they are specifically unmodifiable and not corrupted, presumably because corrupted items always drop ID'd.
Yes. And that's the thing that really gets me. And I really
like this was an incredibly purposeful decision.
Yes. And I'm like, why do you fight the player on this all the time? I don't get it. PoE has so many things you need to observe and interact with and make decisions about. And they make it so difficult for the player to do that.
so many layers to that wisdom scroll discussion with Chris Wilson. The one
like,
Baeclast 7 years ago.
Like rares and like items that drop on the ground that actually can turn into something like amazing and stuff like that. I can get that, right? And like the uniques and whatever, right? Maybe that'll have the rolls, or like maybe like there you will like a unique item could like with the right rolls be worth IDing because it can turn into something, you know, depending on the roll there, right? And there's something that there's an expectation, or maybe you know that the rolls can never be what you want, and you can just say no. Like, but it's just like the more stuff they add into the game, it's just I just don't see the need anymore. this made sense when there was less stuff around, where the only way to make something feel interesting was to take away the knowledge of what it was prior to it, right? A rare would be interesting because it actually had potential to be something good. But like now you don't care, so you don't pick it up. But I mean, since we have so many things, it's no longer like, it's more like a choice of inventory space. We just want to like I see so many people, like when they leave their map, they'll have like, it's only 1x1s. That's all it is, and things that's unidentifiable.
I mean, when I'm running the Breach and Legion stuff, I can very easily fill my entire inventory from just currency 1x1s and like fragments and scarabs, because so much shit just randomly drops now. I
like
regularly use multiple portals per map to like get 6 sockets out because I'm in SSF on 8 jewelers and stuff like that.
And so what are you then proposing the player does, right? They can either guarantee that they pick up like 4 slots or 8, like let's say you want to pick 2 sentinels. They're competing with 8 pieces of currency. And you have to ID them as well afterwards.
The thing which I find interesting about it is, so I made a video recently giving my thoughts on Sentinel, because this is the most negative I've ever been going to the league. I remember watching the announcement, I actually streamed it, which I haven't done for a couple of leagues, and I was like, oh god, this sounds absolutely awful, like this is going to be atrocious. I'm actually digging this league. The inventory stuff is my only problem with it, but I had a lot of people in my comments saying, oh, it's fine, Tarke, because what I do is I just ID them in the map, and then I drop them on the floor. And I'm like, yeah, you can do that, but it's like, it's wild that that's the solution. I'm like, I find it frustrating. I'm like, no, it's fine. Just, you pick them all up, and then you just ID and drop them. It takes like 5 seconds. And I'm like, yeah, but are you really doing that every fucking map you do? And
that's what I was doing. Then you have to like, and then while all these things are coming in from off screen and like the things falling on your head, right? Yeah. And then you're trying to like make sense whether or not, oh, so I could like put this together with that, because you're trying to figure this mechanic out as well at the same time. But it's like the game is not really allowing you to do so.
It's a lot of information to pass all at once.
Yeah,
you know? You've got to be like, oh, increased empower amount. Okay, what is that worth compared to 10% increased chance of reward? Or I really, really like this league though, and I like that I can be fully invested into just one. So before the league even started, I went on my filter and I blocked everything but the red ones. I only had the red ones, and I was only showing rare ones. And I fully invested into just red Stalk Sentinels, and it felt absolutely amazing. And I'm now in the situation where I've started picking up the blue ones again, and I'm eventually going to swap and maybe try to do some like Glacier maps with the blue ones, because I'm running a lot of Breach, like trying to chain it right with my Breach and my Legions. And I like the fact that I can, because there's no like cost associated to the respec, I've been like collecting stuff for that. Whereas I feel like if this was the traditional kind of tree, which cost me like 60 regrets to try something else, I never would have done that. I'd have stuck to only Stalkers and never pick anything up. I think it says a lot that I'm willing to engage, and I pick up blue Stalker Sentinels, and I blue Stalker Sentinels, and I pick up blue Pandemonium Sentinels, and I still enjoy the league mechanic. It shows you how good it is, but if they weren't fucking 2x2, and it was so obvious.
How's the Keybind situation for you? Because that's something that you were skeptical about
the
as well.
Keybind stuff really fucked me off. I use a mouse with hella keybinds on it, so I ended up just like shoving it on one of my back keys. And
we use the same mouse.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's not that bad, but if we were actually intended to use all 3, it would have fucked me off. I think that's the thing, is it's kind of like, I really like this league mechanic, because I can play in the way that I feel like wasn't intended. Like the way they sold it, I was like, oh, so I've got these 3 dudes, and I'm having to do these 3 dudes, but nearly everyone is either like just Stalker because they're lazy. I know, Ziggy, calm down. Or they're doing Pandemonium plus Stalker. I haven't seen anyone who's using all 3.
Holy fuck, some guy in chat just said, I'm using Shift F1 to F3.
Oh, no.
I think I'd jump. If I'd have to... What the hell, bro?
No.
Surely you can figure out a better way to click these things. Come on.
And that's the thing as well, is like, if you're someone who really isn't like that, like I can just I enter the map, I press the red one, that's me done. Like no thought, no thinking or whatever. And then with Pandemoniums, if you want to save it up, it's quite easy. Like, okay, I'm procking like a strong box or whatever. I've like run in the middle of a bunch of mobs. I now press it, you know.
Yeah, shift is silly. I use Alt, F2, F3, and F4. That's the That's the
You
keybind.
use
to
2
try, I reckon.
buttons for it? You guys are
Yeah.
fucking
Oh,
crazy.
come on,
F2,
come
Alt
on,
F3, and Alt F4.
guys.
That's what I use. Yep.
Come
that's-
on.
2 buttons?
It
Disgusting.
still doesn't go.
God.
What
You're
is this
old.
fucking 2003 Dota?
Oh.
It's okay.
This is sickening. You guys need a video guide on how to properly click buttons.
I feel like
This is
did
crazy.
you ever have to watch that thing? Like, I feel like it's something that everyone watched at some point when they were shit at PvP and like, wow, they watched YouTube on like how to do PvP keybinds. I feel like the PoE community needs that YouTube video.
People need that. No
Yeah.
joke. People don't know how to make shit comfortable. Rise is a boomer. You're the boomer. It's like literally the opposite. Oh my god. You're hurting yourself for no reason. You could be having so much more fun. Although I did make the mistake and I was very pissed off at myself because I'm trying to play the game and then halfway through like act 2 it clicked in my head that I didn't like decide on a keybind for Sentinel. And that prevented me from clicking it like all the way until like tier 3 maps or something because I just constantly I was like I need to figure out a keybind. Eventually once I like figured it out it was super easy. It's no problem keybind. I just took one of my normal keybinds and I replaced it with this because my build didn't use all my keybinds, so easy peasy. But I don't know, that really fucked with me, which I was pretty surprised about. But then it was super comfortable and nothing like clicking shift and scratching your ass 3 times to make the thing go off. It was really nice.
The easy way of doing it is all those foot pedals that you bought for your flask that you don't use anymore because flask automated. You whip the foot pedals out to activate your sentinels. That's the
True.
play.
Oh my god, that's off the mag as well. Like you're just nailing the speed and going like, yeah, let's go.
Kick this ancient robot into work and like, yeah,
So
go on,
that's
mate.
great.
I'm surprised.
will
Isn't there like some sort of series with like completing Path of Exile with like a racing wheel or some shit like that? Like those things have a lot of buttons.
Yeah.
You could really go ham with that.
There's some like Microsoft Flight Simulator dude popping off with his full setup.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that would work. Better controls than mobile PoE anyway.
Dude, no,
Use
what?
these
I
things
have an
now.
idea.
No.
Yeah.
You could.
Oh, go on, nigga. Okay.
Okay. You keybind. You make like an Alexa command for the keybind, and then you're communicating to your Sentinel.
You're like way too dependent on the Alexa. I feel like it's gonna bite you in the ass one day, Dougie.
Okay, so my suggestion, you know how they've started doing stuff where it's like they're making MTX that like the more movement speed you have, your Quicksilver does more stuff. You get like one of those like racing setups that the like more you zoom, it starts like fucking shaking. Like, you know those really shitty like 3D cinemas where they blow mist at your face. It's like you're frozen ice. Oh, you're
like
ignited.
versus-
It turns the heating on. You know.
What happens if you're fighting Eater of Worlds and you start to drown?
Well, then you're really
Do you get
immersed.
waterboarded?
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard mode, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Praise poo-poo, yeah.
Whenever Nugi goes against Brian King, it's like Alexa, turn on the sprinklers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fighting Endless
Oh,
Hunger is like any Jackass movie ever.
on the topic of keybinds, I was an idiot when I was farming Katarina for an Ashling Unveil, and I forgot to take my Sentinels out, and I accidentally hit my keybind for the Sentinel in the middle of the fight. So I had to fight half of a Katarina and then a full empowered Katarina after that.
Oh my god, I do that so many times. I just get bored while I'm fighting a boss with our ref because it takes 45 years to kill anything, and I'll just click the Sentinel. No, fuck. Just like fungal map. The boss starts healing. I'm just like, nah, let me out, bro.
She had a jewelry reward and dropped 2 additional chain belts and 1 cloth belt.
Woo!
Nice.
It was pretty sick.
It is weird how you don't really feel that on bosses. I feel like it should be more feelable. I never
Yeah.
felt like I got anything off of a
how
boss that I juiced.
How did Apex Sentinel end up being so lame? Like,
Yeah.
what
I don't know. I do want to try the Apex Sentinel that gives like 300% quant with Rogue Exiles and the node that gives like 20% more quant
Yeah.
on like an MF character in low tier maps.
You can
and
also
see if I
use
can
it-
get a Rogue Exile to explode into loot. It'll probably just be 50 awful rares, but maybe.
The two main
And see how
setups
many
I've seen for
flasks
it.
they can drop so I can dominate the market.
Um,
Classic Octavian, yeah.
The main setups I've seen for it is, yeah, you do the Rogue Exile stuff. You can do it for farming Maven Crucible, but also stuff like Nullifier Portals. Those are uniques, so you can do it with stuff like that if you're doing like Elder maps. There's a few things you can do with it. But one thing I want to talk about briefly, who the fuck who's run Stalker mods, who the fuck is taking the node where your Stalker mod doesn't affect white monsters? If you're doing that, you're a moron. You want them to affect white monsters. So much
Maybe
better.
there's. What if we just don't get it?
I feel like
The only thing I can think of is you do that with the Stalker node that causes it to have a chance to duplicate monsters, and then you're like trying to duplicate essence
Right.
monsters or something. But that doesn't sound
I
very
think
good.
but it's like it's some end game mega juice, right? Where
Right?
you have like these insane maps where like there's beyond in there as well, and just keep spawning rares and blues and packs and everything, and you have like 5,000 monsters in one map, and so therefore, right? But you kill 1,000 monsters, every 20 seconds, so you have like enough time, and it's fine.
Have you guys used the new /kills command yet?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
was-
look at my kill death ratio, obviously.
I was surprised by how few monsters it took to. I was level 96 at the time, and I did /kills, and it was only like 360,000 or 370,000, which is not a small number, but I expected way more than that
Yeah.
to get to that level.
It's just like a small country or something, bro. No
I
big
mean,
deal.
if you think about how dense maps are nowadays in the end game, with
Ziggy,
like
it's
potentially double influence types, which is insane, by the way. If you want to get full value out of your Pandemonium Sentinels, walk up to a shrine when you have Eater of Worlds and, I don't know, Drox or something, and like 5 times the number of monsters that live at that shrine will show up to help out, and then you hit the Pandemonium, and it's beautiful unless you die.
I'm surprised your number isn't higher, because I did it like a couple of maps before I finished playing, and I had 377,000, and I'm 95, but that's in softcore with a bunch of deaths. So I thought I would have been like 97 or 98 if I hadn't been like doing stupid stuff, but apparently I'd been 96. Are you nearly 97?
96 and a half.
Ah,
humble
interesting.
brag, Tarke. Very cool.
No, I
Oh,
genuinely.
me with my Omni build while I was searching for my mirror. Like, come on, man.
Well, no, it's good because now everyone knows it only takes 377 kills to get a mirror.
I did kill monsters on my other character that also died, so that's not like all the monsters I've killed this league, but
No, but yeah, the kills are character specific though, so that's what I mean.
Yes,
It's like, yeah,
yes.
I just thought that many kills would, yeah, and it'll be interesting seeing
I
people
was surprised too.
work out like how many kills is like level 100 or like whatever and blah 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 blah.
Ziggy, the real test isn't the KD ratio, it's the APM to kill ratio. You should bring back the click counter. Yeah.
How many clicks to kills?
I would bet you you're clicking more than you're killing, like, in terms of amount of mobs. If you're
Well,
counting
like, you
everything in the
cast Spark
hideout and
once,
whatnot,
and it kills like 20 mobs. But yeah, then plus all the clicks in your hideouts when you're not killing stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't
You
be
go to
surprised if it's
6
pretty
link
close to
1
1-to-1.
chest and that's it, you're done, like, you know.
I think you'd be clicking a lot. Especially like if you played a trapper like Tarke. Tarke just put Caustic Arrow on a trap.
I wish that
it.
did light damage. Oh, that someone made a good point actually. You might take into account that Octavian probably does slightly lower content to stay safe. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah,
Oh
for a
my
while.
god, another humble where you have to
I'm
bring that up,
reading
Tarke.
chat, my
Oh
dude. I'm reading
disgusting.
chat. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
nobody
Come on,
asked
you-
Tarke. Nobody posted that. What the hell? I don't
You
see
might
that
also
message
take into
anywhere.
account that Tarky's a nerd.
That is true. That is true,
Unbelievable,
yeah.
this guy. Jesus Christ.
Do you reckon there'll be
What are you gonna
people-
do with your
No,
mirror,
I
Tarke?
think the
Like, I don't
important
know.
part here.
I like to keep the XP that I earn. personally.
just before you go, Nugi, do you think there'll be a race where people try and get to level 100 with the least amount of slash kills? SSF try and get to 100 with the least amount of slash kills. I think that could be interesting.
I mean, you just divide by how many times you've died. Easy.
True.
Whoever has the higher numbers, the better player. I mean, that's why hardcore players are always better, because the characters never die. So divided by 0, infinity.
Never, yes, no, we
right?
never die.
Otherwise.
You die one
Yeah.
time, it's like you're
Hardcore
level
characters
100.
never die. I
It's
wish.
100. It's like
Shit.
Yes,
Sure hasn't worked out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't noticed. Thanks, Noogie, for the tip.
Do you? Is the RF character alive still? Am I?
No,
Is
no,
that a pain point? I don't mean
no,
to.
no. It was the off-screen Diamond Shrine.
You're playing like
motion
SRS
Oh,
or
right,
something
right,
now,
right.
aren't you?
Yeah. What's up?
Aren't you playing like SRS or something now?
Oh yeah, I'm playing SRS. Ugh.
Is it shit?
I mean, I wanted to play skeletons, but like I had Delirium enabled for the longest time just to get the minion cluster jewel. I didn't need any of that shit for the event or anything. I just wanted to play SRS. Now that I'm playing it, I switched to skeletons.
Hmm.
It sucks. What can I say? I mean, it's not that bad, but
Do
it
you have
is.
do you have the jewel for mage skeletons, or is it vanilla
No,
skellies?
Hmm.
no. But Colony in my chat was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a cool idea." He went into heist, instantly dropped it. He rerolled the character. He's like level 23, dropped another one. I'm just like, this is a good game. I love this.
Hmm.
I always drop it when I don't need it, but now that I want it, it's not there.
It feels like quite common. I feel like I get a couple every league. It's not that rare, is
Fuck
it?
you, Tarke. Okay. Stop. You're going too far. Couple
I think
mirrors too.
going back to Sentinel, I think a good sign with Sentinel as well for me is that I think that what I've almost died to the most is Sentinel. Like me trying to juice a little bit too much constantly. I'm like, fuck. I just spawn things on myself, like running into things and everything heals. I'm like, ah, right? It's like, it's really fun. And I've been like, I was like, oh my god, I would have been so embarrassed, right? But that's okay to be embarrassed rather than being like, I can't believe this shit exists, right? It's like you take on the challenge and you risk everything for it, and it's like, versus you feel like someone just like, you know, had like a drive by and stole the ice cream out of your hand. It's like, well, okay, that was nice. But yeah, that's like Harvest versus Sentinel, by the way.
Do you guys have anything to say about the like hardcore boss race? Obviously, I didn't watch any of it because I wanted to keep it blind. But like, was there anything interesting happening there?
All of it.
Where?
Yeah. How blind do you want to be? We don't.
Yeah, like
I literally I know nothing about. I know that Ziz like did really well and then like got one shot the next map or something.
Do you want to continue to know nothing? Is the question I'm asking.
yeah.
Should we talk about this or not?
Go on then, I guess. Yeah, no, go on. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Hold on.
I asked the question. I wanted you to talk about it. I just say I don't know anything, so like educate me.
I mean, Uber bosses are sick. If
Mhm.
DD wasn't in the game, then Saboteur would have killed it. But still,
Yeah.
I mean, there's
if
always a
Saboteur
best
wasn't in the
build.
game,
If
But
best
then,
build wasn't
actually,
playing,
then
next
that
best
would
build
start
would've
to
been playing.
become. What do you do then if it's not Seismic or DD? Then it starts to become like,
Well, didn't Jung
Helix or
get
EA
like
Ballista, I guess.
one
yeah,
of
everybody
them?
would have played
That's-
the Helix Slayer. Oh my god, I would, I would be so happy.
Yeah,
but
Young
that would have been rough. That would have been
Yeah.
well
hard.
with
Oh
he did
my
well with
god.
Explosive Trap, right?
Yeah, yeah. And what did
Yeah.
Ziz play? Did he do EA or did he do DDD?
Yeah,
DD.
everybody played
DD.
DD except
Yeah.
Jung. Jung
Okay.
popped off.
Oh
He
yeah.
played the Explosive Trap. And he didn't. I like how my chat dressed that up. They were like, dude, Jung is a real gamer. He didn't even use Slayer to call the bosses. He fucking rolled the Slayer, made it like 4k life, and he died while running to Cirrus because he got teleported into the maze and just died to the Degen instantly. He killed the boss, but like, oh, he's a real man. He didn't even try to do that. No, he totally did try. But nonetheless, he succeeded, and it was
Apparently,
really
people are
impressive.
saying Gucci did
Wait, was it-
Seismic as well.
Was it Fire
What
Trap
happened?
or was it Explosive or what was it
Explosive.
he used?
Explosive Trap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think there was one Seismic as well. I think Gucci was Seismic.
Yeah, Gucci was Seismic, which is super impressive because I don't know, you just die while mapping on Seismic. I find a lot. It's like a lot more volatile. You don't die nearly as randomly with DD because you're just practically immune to everything. And anything that you're not immune to, you block unless you're Lily and you get slammed. In which case,
So who
never
actually
block
like who
that.
actually got the 7? Like who are the peeps?
Has it been 7?
I think it's
Yeah.
still 6. No,
Right.
I thought there was a list of 7 posted already.
I'll admit after
I'm
the
not
first
sure.
like 3 or 4, I was
8 now.
not keeping
There you
full
go.
track. Okay. Awesome.
Darky, Nick
It's 8 now.
Exile, Ziz, Gucci, Jezzy, Steel Mage, Zakor. People are saying.
There
There's
you
a
go.
Yeah,
forum
there's
thread or
a
something.
GG posted the thingy bulb and some clips. Nice.
That said,
Nice.
like the DD thing is a bug. It's unintentional. That is kind of an exception to the rule, but I also think that like regardless in a solo self-fund hardcore environment with bosses that are as challenging as the uber versions of bosses, you're gonna have like 3 builds that people do
Yeah.
for it,
Mm.
maybe 4. Like that's
will.
just the nature of super constrictive environments. It's the same thing with Gauntlet, you know, where like regardless of the meta for Gauntlet, we've had at most like 4 or 5 builds, and that's like a really high build diversity Gauntlet, as if there's like 4 or 5 builds that lots of people are playing.
To be fair, Gauntlet's definitely gonna be banning DD for their event, so
Mhm.
they're gonna have
Are
a
they
hard
actually?
job. Yeah, I mean that's what Ziz been saying and Viro too. They're gonna have a hard job at like. Hopefully GGG puts in effort, but like finding the middle ground between having the bosses like reasonably difficult while simultaneously not having mods that just kill the players while mapping. I feel like that's always the biggest struggle in Gauntlet. Very few players get to the juicy part, which is the actual like bossing, like the
I
real
think
fun.
I
I
think
mean,
there are some of the uber bosses are simply just not going to be done in Gauntlet. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic there, but like, you know, similarly to how I don't think we saw Feared completed in the last Gauntlet, even though that was
Right.
on the board for like, you know, actual points for completion. But to be fair, last Gauntlet mods were also kind of disgusting. Like it was extremely rippy. But some of the uber boss fights are already so nutty, and if DD is taken out of the equation,
what
Yeah.
builds would you pick for the Gauntlet if you had to? Do you know what has he said what the mods are going to be or anything?
not yet. No.
Nobody knows anything.
One thing I'll say as an outsider, a non-Uber Andy here, is that I like that the Uber bosses, reward-wise, are only a little bit more rewarding. I think that's really important because it avoids the like Legion Headhunter situation of
Mhm.
like the value of the fragments being very tightly controlled by the Uber version of it, since they use the same use the same resource or fragment or access point. It means that the bossing content still stays relevant for players who can only do the regular versions, which is good. So
That's good.
yeah, you make like a ridiculously harder version with a little bit more reward. That's definitely the way to go in this situation. So GG really nailed that, it seems.
I mean, we'll see. Because now
Hmm.
they're designing uniques for them, right? So maybe next league the reward is gonna be like cracked. Because the uniques that people are designing are nutty. Like, and the in general from the new bosses,
Sure.
all that stuff is pretty crazy. So it might
New
get
drops can change it.
yeah.
That
I
brings up.
mean,
Oh,
I hope
sorry.
nearly
so,
all of them
honestly.
have something that's worth it in the current iteration. So it's
Right.
more a question of whether the fragment values change dramatically based on the Uber versions. So hopefully it stays the case where like, it skews a little bit, but it's still worth doing without it being Uber. That's ideal.
That
Mhm.
brings up something I wanted to ask. So I've seen this sentiment a lot. There are a lot of people saying that one of the reasons why they're not interested in this league or why they think of even quitting this league is because of the rarity of Omni and Ashes. Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
I think it's really telling to the state of end game uniques as a whole that a shift in a couple of amulets can have that much of an impact across the
Yeah.
board for tons and tons of builds. I mean, I don't know if that's. I honestly can't make up my mind whether that's like a problem with endgame uniques across the board in Path of Exile, or if that's just Omni and Ashes are kind of gross. And I think it's a little of column A and a little of column B. As far as like current drop rates, I think they are somewhat close to reflecting the power of the items, but it's maybe a bit extreme. I don't know. I like them rare. I don't like them this rare, which I feel like is a bit of a cop out of an answer, but there is a rarity that's correct. And I don't think we quite hit it this time around. We swung the pendulum
think
too far in the other direction.
items like this remind me a bit of like Reach of the Council, where it's just outright better. And they skew like build making and build balance so dramatically. So the solution then, if like from last league to now is either to giga nerf them and make them, really niche or not interesting or not good anymore, just outright not good anymore, or to make them really rare. And I think in this case, like it's much more fun to make them rare and have them be really impactful still.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the rarity is right or anything, but just as a general approach, I think that's a better route to go.
I think it's also somewhat muddled by the fact that they were so incredibly omnipresent last league. There were so many builds that used Omniscience or Ashes that combined with the fact that there weren't significant balance changes to, characters going into this league. Obviously, Archnemesis was a pretty big balance change, but to build specifically, there weren't balance changes, meaning that a ton of build guides that were made last league are being followed by people. A ton of those build guides say you should get an Ashes. It's pretty much best in slot, or same thing with Omniscience. So demand skyrocketed as compared to where it would have been at this point last league when people were just experimenting with them and didn't quite understand their power, and supply plummeted. So you have like the perfect storm to create as high a price as humanly possible for these items that people will still eventually pay, which is, I think, around 30x at the moment.
Do you think that if GGG had made a manifesto saying we decided not to nerf things, so instead we've made them ultra rare, people would feel better about it? And they said that
Yes.
like before the league start?
But I think so. I think there's that there's many things in this. In specifically this, you cannot go out and say in a game that revolves so much around items that nothing has changed. That is just strictly not true. I think Chris or GGG, I think they're being very disingenuous here in their communication. I don't think this is true. Like, I don't think you can really like say, oh, you can plan your league starter builds now, because like the way people plan is around items, and you cannot make significant changes to items that way and then say everything is the same. At least if you want good retention, because people will plan for this. Like I get what they're coming from, and I can read through what he's saying, but the end result is that people will just feel like they got like kind of like I don't know what the word, but like
Screwed.
they screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does definitely feel extra disingenuous with the fact the game is so much harder as well. Because to be like, oh, the balance, like we're
but
not
that you
changing
can take.
anything
It's just
from the
like
balance.
there's like
plan your
that people are
builds.
gonna get to the bosses and everything.
Yeah.
Like everything else, like they could have had all this difficulty, but like the way it like uniques and stuff are like available, just yeah, it matters so much.
It's actually it's cheaper on the whole, I'd imagine, to buy a lot of powerful jewel combinations than
Yeah.
to buy an Ashes or to buy an Omni right now. And that to me feels a little wrong. I don't know. Like, to me, the big budget chase thing that these bosses provide was the ability to get a whole nother fucking ascendancy class node. Like, that's not to say Ashes and Omni aren't powerful, but that's an indicator to me that maybe the rarity is out of whack.
Considering that, do you think that, well, taking into account that GGG was uncomfortable with the situation last league, do you think that it would have been better for them to keep the drop rates, but maybe nerf the uniques to a point where they would have been still good and like build defining, but then not, with the exception of Ashes, because Ashes is just kind of bullshit. Because like you can build around the other stuff, but Ashes is just better than everything else, like Ziggy mentioned, and I don't know.
It feels like a cop-out answer, like I said earlier, but I honestly think this, like, tuning the dial of rarity was a good way to go about it. They just tuned it too far.
Yeah.
Like, I personally don't think it's more complicated than that. Like, it was the right decision to make them more rare. It just they went overboard and made it too rare, which I imagine is a pretty easy mistake to make.
I just looked at the stats just see if this affects your opinion at all. But I looked up the stats on Ninja, so obviously whatever the top number of people that is build wise, it's 10% for Ashes and 7% from Nissia. Just across all builds in softcore.
That's a fucking crazy amount.
What
still.
percent are made
this early into the league?
Right? There's still a lot.
That's a lot.
What percent are mage
There's a
bloods,
lot of
Ziggy?
Omnisciences and Ashes then.
It is very tilted by the fact that Pee-wee Ninja is showing only high-level characters, but I don't actually know what the level cutoff is anymore. It might not, like, is it 80 something now?
Well, it depends on how. Yeah, well, it depends on where in the league we're at.
Yeah, true.
Let me see if I can figure out how many. I don't know if there's an easy way to do that.
I think also it's one of those things of
It's like 95,
Right.
95 to 100.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think among the larger player base, the representation would be a lot lower.
Of course.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it's a 40x item, right?
someone
lot lower.
said
Yeah.
people are saying in chat Aegis is 22%. One person said Mage Blood is 5%, another one said Mage Blood is
Aegis is
3%
that high?
for context.
I'm gonna look at
I mean, I
Headhunter.
know Aegis is good. I'm just
3% for
surprised that it's that
Headhunter,
popular.
and it's cheaper.
That's
3%
fucking
for
cool. I
Headhunter.
don't know. I like Aegis being so popular. I like defensive shit being
it's
more popular on
cool.
softcore.
Yep.
I'm just surprised by it.
Yeah.
See, the thing which is interesting about it is both of those items are so build defining. I think that also kind of goes into one of those things of I don't know how I feel about Chase Uniques being so build defining. It's kind of like that whole thing of like, should Shavs or Mjolnir be ultra rare or something like Headhunter being like, you know, I feel like there's a difference because a lot of my fun this league has definitely come from the fact that because I'm playing Omni, I'm not just using the same fucking trap tree I've used like every league for the last like year. That's been where most of my enjoyment has come from is like, oh, my gearing is completely different. Oh, I'm trying all these different things. And that's been like a huge point of fun for me. And even if I had like the exact same levels of damage, but using like my normal trap tree and my normal trap gearing, this character would be way less fun. It's that difference in how I normally play, which makes this really fun. And then for Ashes, it's like, yeah, Ashes is a really good item, but also it enables so many alt quality gems. And that's for me where I feel like it kind of sucks. If you wanted to do something a little bit wacky, like, you know, an alt quality tornado build, you can do like pure tornado. Well, good luck doing that now if you're going to be, you know, dropping 50 exalts for a beam build. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's like it's not because you like transitioned your character, but for most people, it's not like you're playing a character built for Omni and then you get it and you do that. You like make a separate character. You can't
That's
play
true.
it. Same for
Yeah.
Tornado Shot. You weren't like playing Tornado Shot and then suddenly it's good. Like you can't play it, right? So in that way, I don't know. People have been asking for like chase gear for the longest time. I think that chase
Yeah.
gear being introduced through bosses is like meaningful, but I do agree with Octavian, at least in the case of Omni, that yeah, they probably went a little bit too far with that. I don't know. Ashes is just bullshit. I don't. Ashes is. I
What
still
would
remember when
you
everybody
do to-
was like, one chaos item, one chaos item." When they really, I was just like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Like, what? What?
What would you do to change Ashes then? Because I mean,
Remove it."
oh
I hate
no.
items like Ashes. You can't introduce something like Omni or like the jewels and all this sort of interesting shit with a downside, or even like melding. That's pretty basic bitch, but like you have to build around it. And there's a downside, and you have to like make a separate character for it a lot of the times. And then like introduce something like Ashes that's just better than everything else.
I suppose
I
the
think
the
Ashes
issue.
is
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
fine
just
when
not a
it's like
fan of
giga
that.
rare, like you only equip it when you've already won the game, right? Like that's I think Ashes fits perfectly there. Like,
Yeah, of
oh, who
course.
cares that that person's wearing an Ashes? They've already got 100x in their stash. They've already
Yeah.
beaten every single piece of content.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck if they've got some OP giga cheat item on their character? You know?
No, I'm joking
It's-
with the removing it. It's just
No, they should bump it up to Uber tier, like
Uber Ashes. Oh, make him better. That's what you're
Make
saying.
No, 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 no,
That,
no,
that
no.
would run into the
Put-
problem
I know.
Ziggy was talking about, though.
Yeah, I know,
where-
I know.
Are you saying your main issue is the fact that you can just equip it on any build without having to change anything and it's good? Whereas, like, for me with my Omni, I had to change my entire build to make that item work for me. Is that your issue, right?
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's not a build enabling item. I don't know. Like I think it's fine to have stuff like that in the game, but it's a phase.
Do
Like
you
it'll
feel the
go
same
away.
way about Mage Blood? Because I think Mage Blood is quite a boring item in that sense. It's got a lot of
Mage Blood is
versatility,
exactly the same,
but you
in
just
my
equip
opinion.
it, and yeah, I think it's very similar in that sense.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, with Mage
I-
Blood, it enables like Ashes doesn't enable your gameplay, Mage Blood does.
Right.
And that's like the difference because there's build enabling items that then enable gameplay, but Mage Blood enables a specific way of playing the game, which I think just suits a lot of people because a lot of people hate playing the game the normal way, which I don't know. I can appreciate that.
Okay, I think I have a look like so. Remember when all the bosses had shit uniques, and everyone was like, "Why would I ever boss because of shit uniques?" I don't think PoE was ever in a good state when we didn't have cool stuff from bosses. I think that was probably one of the worst parts of the game when everything was just how many exalts can I juice out of this map. But that was like the only thing you cared about. You found your like headhunter, and then everything else didn't matter. Like having all these like really cool uniques, I think is really important. I think what we really lack right now is better, interesting mid-tier uniques in general.
I really, really like the design of things like Watcher's Eyes and the Forbidden Jewels
They're
to
very
fill
good.
that gap.
Yeah.
Because they have the capability. I think Watcher's Eye is the single best designed boss unique drop in the entire video game because it has the capability of both being a crazy powerful chase unique and also being the mid-tier unique and also being like
True.
the sort of trash fail unique that you will, need to dilute the pool. It's everything. It's perfect. Watcher's Eye is beautiful. Every boss should drop Watcher's Eye. I don't mean that last bit.
It's also why I like what's the Templar hands from Xeris. Because like like where you just right where you get something to gamble on, where you're never really sad about it because at least it's some fun.
Yeah. No, and Cyrus's hat, less fun than the hands, but still just a good generic unique.
Yeah, true. I think
Cyrus's
it's
hat
important.
is like the not OP version of Ashes, where it can fit into a whole ton of different builds, and it's pretty good in most of them, but it's not it's not crazy strong.
And let me put a proposition out there. How about we don't overnerf these items, we keep them powerful, and then we add more flavorful, very strong uniques from all these, like a wide variety of high tier bosses. Like right now, it's all about Omniscience and Ashes and Mageblood. Just more.
Hey, what if?
Because then you dilute, like by having better items, then people start making choices. Like if you had 2 or 3 very good amulets, right? Then all of a sudden you would choose between.
I want to buff Starforge again.
No. You beat me. I was going to say, what about Xeris to Saver? Do you remember when they fucking changed it, Xeris to Saver? I was so mad. I saw patch notes. Oh, she just drops from normal at Xeris now. All right. didn't do anything to actually like make it good. Like, all right, cool.
If they want
Okay, why can't those be good if you can recombinate into tyrannical flaring? I'm sorry, come on.
No, I'm not even talking about like it would be cool to give Starforge a damage buff, sure, but like if they don't want it to be the highest DPS weapon, they should at least give it some fucking identity. You know, like it's got AOE on it, and it's got shock scaling on it, it's got life on it. Lean into that. Give Starforge plus 300 life. So if you want to be big, thick, tanky dude, but you don't mind having a slightly lower damage sword, you go Starforge, and now you're absolutely you're at like 11k HP or something, and then you do Bloodthirst or whatever, and you have an identity to your build that leans into what Starforge is, rather than Starforge just being a crappy sword that looks fancy.
It's particularly funny as well because they literally have like 1-to-1 Starforge in the office. Like they got one made.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh.
Should bring it back. They just should.
Or give it more AoE. Lean into the AoE aspect of it. That would be sick.
Give it a more AoE multiplier. Boom.
Yeah.
Not just increase, more.
Now people would probably use it, even with its current not great damage values compared to a rare. Like it would be a reason to use the Starforge because you want to get the biggest AoE you can with, I don't know, Cyclone or whatever.
I think Carcass Jack is a really good example of that. Like Carcass Jack is a pretty shit chest, but people use it.
Oh yeah. There are certain things that just love AoE. I agree. Someone said like, oh, like if they just introduce more high tier uniques, right? They're really powerful. Because like everyone keeps talking about like it's just items for the 1% now. But the thing is, the reason why last league it wasn't an item for the 1% is because it was common. And what does making it common do to the whole thing? It dilutes like the pool. Right? It means that more players can just have them because there's just more of them. So if you add more interesting uniques that people will choose over it, it means that it becomes more available because someone didn't take it out of the pool. So just by virtue of there being something else on it, like other things become cheaper, and Ashes and Omni would still be there to also compete on the same slots. So
Hmm.
I kind of like that they're adding more interesting uniques, and I mean, in this world, I mean, honestly, I'm like, you could bring Headhunter back a little bit again. I mean, I'm kind of
They're planning to, I
I'm kind
believe.
of liking that it's like that it kind of got, because it's like it's been like how many years now? Like 7 years of Headhunter. It's kind of
Don't say
boring,
it.
but I mean,
Didn't they mention in one of their recent posts that they're planning like a targeted buff for
Right.
Headhunter?
So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had this
yeah.
conversation with Bala the other day because he is full. He's been playing with Headhunter. He's like, no, guys, trust me, it's actually really good. And Grimro, I've never seen Grim try so hard to not be like, Bala, you're talking shit, shut up. But Bala's like, he's convinced it's going to be really good again. I think something which is worth thinking about when GGG said they're going to buff up Headhunter is they said they were going to buff it in the context of having just nerfed Archnemesis, not in the context of like, oh, it's bad at League start. I think a lot of people think they're going to revert it to 317, whereas I think they're most likely just going to bring it back up to it was like 2 days ago.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I am actually fairly tempted to try and save up for one and grab one in hardcore though, because a lot of the Archnemesis modifiers are much more defensive than
Yeah,
old
lots
rare
of like
monsters
max
were.
res stacking and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can get max block chance. You can just get like, I think it's like 50-50 block chance from one of them. They patched out old invulnerable, but you used to be able to just get complete damage immunity occasionally.
Oh.
So yeah, I think in a hardcore setting, I'm a little more excited to use one, but most people don't play in hardcore, turns out.
Mhm.
I mean, could
You
it
know,
be?
we're kind of weirdos, except for you, Ziggy, and you, Tarke.
And maybe Misun.
Yeah, fair.
Oh, that's exciting.
Oh,
Would you go softcore
damn.
trade or softcore SSF?
Trade.
It's really, that's a big jump.
Nice.
Elaborate, Niggy.
I am bored of generic builds in PoE. Determination, blah blah, same skills every time. I'm sick of it. I'm actually
I
sick
understand that.
I get that too.
It's
The
like
last
it's one of
build-
the. It was really disappointing that they didn't do any balance changes, like, and no introduce of like items and uniques. It's like, I don't know. It's very counter to what I normally do at a league start. So that was kind of like disappointing. Like, I actually just rolled up at league start and just did a build, and just knowing everything I was going to do was kind of like, just, I don't know, a little bit of a downer. So
But that's the good part. That's what people want.
people maybe.
I don't know. That's what I always hear. Like, people are always like, "Oh, I want build variety," and then they play Cyclone for 12 weeks in a row. It's like,
Is Cyclone the best example? Is Cyclone popular right now?
no, but there's like dedicated Cycloners. You know what I'm saying?
Are there a bunch
It's
of
more
little
so about, like,
Alkaizers out there spinning?
even Alkaiser doesn't really
Yeah, he's just
Cyclone
doing
anymore.
Helix now.
I don't know. In a lot of ways,
Still spinning.
people do like the most like meta stuff, and they like redoing it. I think what feels the worst is
Sure.
when you really like a thing and then it gets nerfed,
Yeah.
and you're just playing a worse version of that thing, but it's still good. It's just never going to be like what it was the league before.
I mean,
Really.
that's why I can't play ED Contagion anymore. I played it back
Right.
in Synthesis before they changed it so it didn't scale radius off gem levels, and I was in softcore that league. I went like full AoE softcore memes, like I might do with a Starforge if they were to give it more AoE. I'll plug that whenever I can. Like a +5 gem levels carcass or some shit like that, and I got a radius that was the size of the screen, and then
Weren't
they
we?
deleted
I remember
that
because
from
we
the
were
game.
planning that stuff together. Weren't we doing like Pathfinder as well to get the AoE off Pathfinder?
Yeah, no,
True.
I was Deadeye back
Oh,
when
yeah,
Deadeye
that was
had
it, yeah.
50% AoE and an extra projectile. It was Deadeye, Essence Drain, Contagion.
Yeah.
It was, I could cast ED Contagion once and run along with the card in Delve and go to the other end of the Delve off one cast and chaining it with the ED. It was so good.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I'm the
Here's a
same way with
question.
Mines. I haven't played Mines since the Mine rework, and the Mines are better now. I just don't like the way it fucking plays.
I have a question. Because people in the chat called me out when I said that Ashes doesn't enable gameplay, and I wonder how you guys feel about this, because it enables like builds for me, but it doesn't enable gameplay. Like, I can't
What's the difference there?
see. That's kind of like
Okay.
so.
I'll give
Okay,
you-
I'm
people
not
would
trying to
point to like
attack you. I'm
poison
curious. I'm
spark,
curious
for
your
instance,
definition.
right? People pointed to poison spark, that enables poison spark, or like poison flame blast. but I feel like I'm okay. Like I can play Spark and I can play Flame Blast, and they don't feel different if they're poison or if they're ignite or if they're crit. For me personally, I'm not saying that's for everybody. That's why I'm asking. But then like the difference being Omni, which enables me to play skills that I normally wouldn't be able to make viable in like the type of content that I play.
So, Dire Gray last league did a Cane of Coolamak Ashes build with Flame Dash, scaling the alt quality that gives tons more burning damage, and he
Right.
was like effectively and efficiently clearing T16s with Flame Dash Ignite. Like it wasn't
Okay,
a
yeah.
goddamn
So
meme.
stuff like that, stuff like that
like,
would be cool as
Nito
fuck.
did a really
And
cool
that way, yeah.
fire conversion tornado build, which was really good, and it was just like straight tornado for everything, which you couldn't do without Ashes. Also, I know Octavian's done a lot of like cooldown trappers, but like cooldown trappers would be so much smoother to play with Ashes because the alt quality gives
Yeah,
them massive
Ashes is good.
CDR.
Okay. Well, then I'm just wrong. I'm okay with that. Well, that's like the best case scenario then, that it actually, because again, like people pointed to like Krima. It's like you can play Krima, you can play Spark, but like these things you genuinely just doesn't sound like you can. So
Yeah,
in that
I
way,
mean,
would
Flame Dash
rebuild
Ignite,
another.
it was a meme that I think Mathel did, and like, you know, with great effort and extremely skilled gameplay pushed it. But like, Dire Gray was
True.
like comfortably farming bosses and stuff with it, and it had
Mhm.
like defensive layers.
I hear those are pretty good.
Yeah. I too like the determination skill gem.
So I find this interesting because we started off shitting on Archnemesis, then we all praised Sentinel except for some inventory stuff, then we've all kind of praised the Atlas skill tree. If you just kind of like summarize, how are you enjoying this league compared to last league? So for me, this first week has been the most fun I've had in Path of Exile for a long time. But obviously, like I've had a pretty good time in terms of RNG and stuff, so that probably does sway my opinion somewhat, and I don't know how that would be different if it wasn't for that. So I don't know. What do you think, Ziggy?
I feel like I should be enjoying this league more than last league because I think like objectively the Atlas is better. Sentinel's really good. The game's gotten better in many ways, more quality of life improvements and stuff like that. But Archnemesis, it was optional last league. It's not optional this league. Yeah, so I'm having less fun this league.
But if you had
That'd
to
be
like put a number on how much fun you were having last league compared to leagues before, so we have context.
a number, like a out of 10 ranking of
Yeah,
Path of
yeah,
Exile as a whole, or as the league.
yeah. Like the how much fun you were having last league.
What is your fun out of 10?
Yes.
I don't know if I can do that in a way that does any sort of justice.
Distill it into a number so that we're capable of understanding.
Hit me.
Last league, I
Number
would
rankings
say
are so dumb.
I had 2 out of
I like it.
4 croissants of fun last league, whereas this league, I feel like I've had 4 out of 4 fucking pain au chocolat. There's like, it's not just like croissant, it's like, yo, I've got some filling in this bitch. Like, let's go. This is way better. Way better. I feel like the Atlas passive tree last league was cool, but it was missing a lot of stuff, whereas now there's so much stuff to be fucking around with. Like, I like the fact that you can do crazy things with just like the notables, or like your minor nodes do nothing, your major nodes are the only ones that have impact, and like reversing. I feel like the Atlas skill tree is so much more interesting, and even though we got loads of agency last league with specking certain league mechanics, one thing which actually really fucked me off is I vividly remember specking into shit like Breach last league in SSF, and then running 10 maps and it never proccing. And I'm like, well, that was a fucking waste of my time. Whereas now if I spec into a league map, it's in like every fucking map. And it feels like, yes, this is good. So yeah.
Okay, I'll do a number ranking. I've given it some thought. So I feel like last league Pee-wee is probably going from last league to this league, right? It should have been going from like 8 out of 10 to 8.5 out of 10 this league, I think. But instead it went from 8 out of 10 to 6 out of 10.
6?
Yeah.
Ziggy, if
I
you
think
could...
D-.
Hang on, quickly, Ziggy. Could you convert that into like a pastry ratio? Sorry, I don't understand these numbers. So it's like
it went from like a real good like local bakery meat pie.
Right.
Like you're just like, so good. But you know, there's better meals out there. But you know, it's a real good meat pie. To like bottom of the barrel, like it's still kind of frozen in the middle. Not quite
dry.
that bad. It went to one of the $1.50 servo pies.
Right.
It's like, yeah, if you're really hungry, it'll still hit the spot, but
Right. Yeah, I feel you.
it's still a meat pie, so that's still
Mm.
good. But yeah.
Can I go next?
Yeah, go on, Nuggy.
Okay, because I'm with you on the croissant here.
Yeah.
So like, last league was like,
I'm not.
okay, last league was like a nice croissant, croissant, with like a turd on the side, a turd on the side, like a dog
Right.
turd.
Wait,
Right,
what?
Smelled a little bit.
What
no,
the
just
fuck?
follow me
Okay.
here,
A little
follow me
bit.
here. No,
I take it back.
Okay,
Don't
so
put
wait, so
numbers
hang
on
on,
it.
hang on. So to
No,
picture the
no,
scene,
'cause
you're
it's
in like a
no,
nice
just-
cafe. You're having a
Okay.
beautiful meal, but,
But like,
the dog's just done a
imagine
shit next to you.
like, you know, someone
Out of
like
politeness, you don't want to address it.
No, but it's like, but this is my own personal feeling. I know
Yeah,
some
of
people
course,
like
of course.
certain things, right? It's like it's just like certain things I just don't like, and
Some
I'm
people
very
like
so.
turds.
Okay, so
True.
that smelled a little bit, and that was like Archnemesis, but I could just walk past it,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, and you trust that it wasn't on your
this league
croissant
is
at any
like,
point.
I went back
It's
to
on
the
the
same
plate.
bakery. It was really nice. I got it with like some cream cheese, really enhanced the experience. But this time I slip in and it's all over me.
Oh.
This time the dog jumped on the table and crapped on your plate.
I'm sorry. It's like, and it's people probably put effort into it, and you know, I can appreciate, you know, whatever it is that they're, you know, like creative process that led to it, and they was probably well meant, but just not for me.
I like
Yeah,
how that analogy came up the one time I put a dog on the overlay. That's good.
Oh no!
And if you like it, you like
Hi, Tilly.
turds, and you're a turd eater.
God dang it, Tilly, what are you doing?
Like, I'm really not trying to be like offensive here. It's just like, you know, it's just how I feel.
For roundup's sake, I have to say, like, I like the idea of making rare and magic monster encounters more substantial. I
Yes.
much more prefer the idea that we talked about of having like rogue exiles be that instead.
Mm.
And I even think some of the design ideas of even some of the mechanics I dislike in Archnemesis are still pretty cool. Like the mana draining donut with the like adjustments to the size and shape of that.
It's a
I'm
good
like, oh, it's
size
actually a
now.
really cool mechanic. It's very visual. It works really well. If it only didn't drain mana, because that's stupid.
Yeah, if it was just like really high damage if you're in the ring,
Yeah.
you
If
know?
only it
like,
didn't do the
okay.
thing that it's designed to do.
No, but like a very
Daniel.
visual ring of this is
Yeah,
the
like,
fucked up place. Don't
super
stand
hot-
here. Makes sense.
Super hot ring. It's like
Yeah.
go really
I feel like-
close to the monster, or go really far from the monster. Yeah, that's like
Bro,
works
what
really
you just
well.
said can describe like literally 90% of Archnemesis mods. Like, if only it didn't do the thing that it does, it would be good.
No,
I mean,
there is a
kind of,
kernel of
yeah.
a good idea there, though, and it's worth addressing.
Hang on.
Okay.
Well, it's just like for the devs that worked on some of these things, you guys did a really good job on some aspects of this stuff. Like yeah, that thing looks really cool, and there's a really good idea there. But unfortunately, I just don't think the whole thing works in the game throughout the whole game.
That's a really good point, Ziggy, but can we bring this back to food-based analogies? I'm still waiting to hear from Octavian and Raiz. Octavian.
So what was the initial question
So
again?
how, if last league was a meal, what is this league?
Yes. What? That was not the original
Hold on.
question.
That's
You're
not
lying
the-
to me.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure. Okay,
how would
so
you
how
rate
many dog
last
turds?
league in comparison to
Yes.
this league in the context of a meal?
So not in the context of a meal. I'm actually having a lot more fun with this league start than I was Archnemesis, and I think it's
Right.
being carried by Sentinel. I find Sentinel to be much more interesting. Our recombinators are awesome, and I'm very excited to continue to explore and engage with that mechanic. In the context of a meal, I don't know. Last league, my Greek yogurt was sour. This time around, it tastes pretty fresh, but there are flecks of questionable brown material in there. In the terms of various specific Archnemesis mods.
Okay, you guys suck at this. I'm going to give you a freebie so Raiz can get more time to think. So let's say that last league was like a carbonara and you're enjoying it, but it's a little bit light. There's no like real meat in it. Whereas this league, there's loads of bacon. This is great. But a lot of that bacon you're biting into is just like fat. You know, when you bite into a bit of fat when you're eating a meal, it kind
That's
of
the good stuff.
Really? When you get that chunk of fat and it kind of ruins, do you not have that? Like, if you bite into like a really fatty piece of meat, it's like, oh, it kind of ruins the rest of the meal for you?
These analogies are not
No,
even
this is if it's like
helpful,
rendered probably.
like remotely. They do.
Right, Rise, go on. Salvage
We're a
this.
serious podcast.
Oh, continuing with the trend, it's like
no.
eating a carbonara and it's really tasty, but then you realize that you're allergic to gluten and you get hot lava diarrhea after it. That's how I feel about the league. Like, what the
And then-
fuck? I will not adhere to these rules. I know that
You
I
just
talked about
did.
the points initially, but I regret ever mentioning it. I thought last league was very poggers. I wasn't a huge fan of Archnemesis, and now it's everywhere. And somehow I'm more okay with it being everywhere than I was with it being a league mechanic previously. I don't know how that works. Game's really good.
Contrarian.
No, I
You being contrary for
I don't know if
the
it's the
sake
type of builds that I played, because everybody told me that RF is not going to be playable, but it was super playable. I don't know. It just doesn't. It hasn't bothered me yet. I'm sure that it will. I enjoyed the initial challenge, but I didn't think that it was like great. And I definitely think that they have to do a lot and they have to do it quickly because, again, it's the game, which is a big problem. And other
it's
than that, I despise the lack of balance changes.
Mm.
The entire reason why I didn't play the Gauntlet, despite being extremely excited for it last league, and I know that the game's obviously not being balanced on the Gauntlet, and even if there are substantial balance changes, it might not even affect the Gauntlet. But it was the fact that, yeah, I just like any build that I play is just like, oh, let's play this thing that I used to play. There's very little stuff for me that I can come up with in like an SSF environment, which is why I fully understand Nugi's perspective of like, yeah, trade league makes sense. Like initially when I thought about PoE, I was like, trade league ill, but now more and more, I'm thinking like, yeah, you can actually do some cool stuff.
Hardcore trade is fun. There's 5 of us, or maybe even more. I think we reached double digits this league.
Hey, maybe even less.
I
if
was
you
there
keep
for a while.
leagues.
It was alright. It's pretty cool.
You need to get Rise to play trade to make up for the loss of Nugi on the economy.
I used to like trade. Trade was fun. I don't know.
I actually really
And
like
then I
the
joined.
trade part of it is really fun, honestly. I still really enjoy it. I think PoE trade, for all it gets, I mean, as long as you're not... I feel like... I think what really gets people is when they get really reliant on the tools and like the third party and the discords and all this, because that's when it can go really wrong. And like if you're like too reliant
Right.
on people, just like getting items and I don't know, is really fun.
Items are
Having
cool.
all my whoops and all that, I really loved it. Turned it into a gong.
What if you
it was
just
great.
like drop the items that you need in SSF and then you don't need to trade with anyone?
They don't.
Yeah, they do.
Well,
Saying that I still haven't got a Tink
Yeah.
skin. I don't think Tink skin's even going to be that great by the time I get one, but I do want one.
I found like 3.
Mm.
See, that's the thing. You always find the stuff that you don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that mage skeleton jewel that I sold yesterday.
Yeah. They should do it. They should
I
actually.
would
should make
log
a
off
vendor
so quick
recipe.
if it wouldn't ruin the overlay. I'm
They
like,
should.
I'm
They
too
should make
professional
a
to log
vendor
off.
recipe so I could vendor my 3 jewels for 1 Tinker skin. That'd be great.
You played like 45 Tinkerskin builds. You don't need another one.
I've
You're fine. I
actually
haven't
never.
played Skelly Mages
I've
in like 3
genuinely
years.
never had one in SSF.
No way.
Legit, it's there are some I chant Sadist Scarves every league. I always just like get Impulsor, and I'm the guy's like, for fuck's sake, Impulsor.
Well, Tarke, it's not like you can drop a Tinkerskin in Battle Brothers, can you now? Huh?
Which is why Battle
There you
Brothers
go.
is such a good game. So fucking
No, fuck.
good.
why
So
did
good.
you
That's the
do
thing.
this?
Now I've got a mirror. It's like I've completed PoE. I need to go get the mirror in Battle Brothers. That's what I need to do.
Mute the host. Mute the host.
Since we're closing up, there is one like.
Wait, you just started talking about Battle Brothers. What do you mean closing up? This is a
Yeah, no.
podcast
Since
for
we're closing
games.
up, there was one thing that I didn't manage to get in earlier when you were talking about Archnemesis, but I've seen a lot of confusion on in my Twitch chat and on Twitter and on Reddit and stuff about how the effigy mod works, and I was actually initially confused about it as well. So the effigy monster spawns a little basically a voodoo doll of you that's up on a cross, and it's like hanging there. It's pretty grotesque if you look at it closely, but I wouldn't suggest you stop and do that. And it links to you with a red beam that attaches to your character. If you get far enough away from it, you will break the red beam and cancel the effect. And the way that it works is it does reflected damage to you, which has caused a lot of confusion because people, they hear the word or they see the word reflect and they think it's damage. I do damage, it reflects back to me, but it's just reflected type damage. The damage is actually coming from monsters, not from you. The monsters around the effigy will be taunted onto the effigy. They hit it, and then that damage gets transferred to you as reflected damage. So if you're immune to reflected damage, you don't take damage from it. But other than that, it doesn't really function like reflect in any other way.
So you know how if you stop moving in P where you die?
Yes,
Spawns
essentially.
an immobile version of you that the monsters can
Yes.
shoot.
Which always
Effigies-
spawns on like a burning ground or a cold snap or something.
Or, as happened to one of my viewers, in lab traps.
Oh,
It spawned in the middle
wow.
of lab traps.
Oy.
Yeah, no, that he died.
Oy.
You can't block reflected damage, right?
You can. You can block and evade.
can you?
Well, normal reflect you can. I don't know about special, but like normal
I-
reflect you
Reflect
can.
you
used-
can. You can't secondary. Don't you remember, Nugi? You used to build
Well,
like
secondary damage is no longer a thing. It's now attributed to the source that caused the secondary damage.
There
All right,
you go.
no, I'm actually like no, you're right. You can't, or you can.
Yeah, because back in the
Yes.
day in hardcore, you used to do like full
yeah, yeah.
evasion lightning arrow, so you would evade, so you don't
Yeah.
off screen yourself.
But yeah, essentially, effigy is GGG's way of forcing players to stand still. Because if they can't get the
Yeah, but,
player
like-
to stand still, they make a copy of the player that stands still.
Like, why? You know, who looked at that and went just
Why?
like, this is good. I like this. Like, this is a good idea. How does this contribute to like the enjoyment of Path of Exile? This is why I don't get about a lot of this stuff.
Okay, Rise. How about this? Battle Brothers doesn't have effigy.
Yeah, but Battle
Ironically,
Brothers also
though,
doesn't have anything that PoE does.
Tarke, you bring up an interesting point actually, because ironically, a lot of these mechanics would work really well in a very slow game, like a
Turn-based,
turn-based
yeah,
game,
yeah.
or just a
True.
much slower RPG. Like a lot of this stuff would be fine in that. It's just Path of Exile is too fast for any of this stuff to, well, for you to A, identify it, and B, deal with it, and then if you are dealing with it, for it to actually be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There definitely is that weird thing of, it's like that whole thing of GG, like, oh, we're slowing down the game, then there is like 5 league mechanics, and then you go really fucking fast. Whereas now they don't seem to do as many timer-based mechanics. Now there's like, okay, so they don't like timers. What if you just like put hard clocks
would
that if
guess.
you don't kill
Oh,
this
sorry.
monster in a second, you die, you know?
I'm not laughing at you. You're making good points. It's just someone in chat said slapping sibling, and it fucking cracked me up. I don't know why.
What?
What the
In
hell?
response to Battle Brothers.
Oh. This is the sort of shit that you would tweet about, Octavian. Let's be honest. Slapping sibling. That's such an Octavian tweet. Jesus.
Oh my god.
That's why you went to go
Anyways,
see
yeah,
your sister recently, right? Just like, congratulations. You know.
No, I
mean,
did not.
Oh.
I mean, it could be a cart for the horse sort of situation where, like, maybe if Pee-wee did get slower, these things wouldn't be so bad. But we're not there. That's not how Pee-wee plays, and I don't know that it's
I
necessarily
mean, to
a
be
good
honest,
idea to get to that
even
point.
if the game was slow, this would be harder because you actually have to engage with these fucking mechanics. Because honestly,
but
like the
then Giga-
workaround for the most part is you just
Well,
you do enough damage and you move fast enough that you don't engage it. That's how most people are getting around it. There's
it's because-
either you die and you struggle, or you just outgear it and you zoom.
It's because even with the relatively binary nature of some of these mechanics, where it's like, straight immunity to this mechanic or something like that, anything that's numerical has to be tuned to be something of a challenge to players that are going at the speeds we currently go in the game. Which means that, yeah, if you were to slow down to engage with them, these are monsters that are tuned for players that aren't slowing down. They're meant to be a challenge for that, so you get nuked,
I've
so,
got it. I've come
like-
up with the solution. I'll let you finish, Octavian.
No, go ahead. I pretty
Right.
much finished my point there.
Chris, Jonathan, Bex, anyone watching this, easy. Monsters get a more damage multiplier based on your movement speed. Done. Instant fix the video game.
That could be a keystone on the Atlas, and there are a lot of players that would click that, where you get like 30% more movement speed, but monsters deal more damage based on your speed. People would click that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just like to point out that Archnemesis is an aspect of gameplay. So you can add that to your list, Ziggy. It was
well,
clicking, visual clarity, and now you can add like literally the rest of the game as gameplay being shit. As a throwback to the last podcast where you guys were like, no, it's good. I hate it.
Okay, we're gonna actual closing thoughts that we'll get back together in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully with some changes. We know they said they're gonna work on some stuff. Realistically, what kind of changes would you like them to? Not just like make it good. What do you think they would do? What would you like to see between now and the next Baeclast that you're like, yeah, I'm feeling happy about this now?
I mean, do you
Uh,
want like the real
Give me the real
answer or
fucking
like the
answer.
perfect world answer?
Give me the real world answer. You're gonna say fucking nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
literally that. There's
Yeah.
nothing realistic going to happen. GGG is going to keep like pushing this, and they're going to keep saying, "Guys, no, listen, we can fix it." It's like the abusive. Okay, You know what? I'm not going to say that. It's the whole "I can fix him" meme. You can't. It's fucked. I don't know. This is always going to be a problem. This is the game now.
I think
Sorry.
in the short term, at least in the course of this league, don't have immunities. I mean, maybe that completely undercuts the identity that they were going for with some of the Archnem mods, but like, I just don't think that they're a good design tool. I don't know. Immune to leech, immune to, I don't know, cold ailments, immune to shot, lightning ailments, whatever. I don't think
I
they're a
mean,
useful design tool.
let's be honest, what does immunity add over, say, 90% reduced effect?
It means that I can't get fortify.
It's that because it's one of those things. It's
They're
like
immune to
if they changed
what I'm doing.
if they changed all the like because the shock immune stuff to instead it's like 90% reduced effect of lightning ailments, I would still be like, oh, that's tanky for my build, but it wouldn't like turn off half of my fucking scaling. You know, it would still be a challenge.
It's sinking in, isn't it?
So I'm worried that Rise is right, that like this is Path of Exile from now on, and that Archnemesis won't really change much. I think like probably the realistic thing of what ends up happening, which would be unfortunate, is just that they continue to make like minor adjustments and number based changes and change a few specific things. Like let's say they got rid of immunities, right? Like none of them were immunity, they're all 80 or 90% now or whatever. Um, these sorts of changes will happen to the point where like we can kind of overlook the problem. But then I'm going to be sitting there like looking back and being like, how did this improve the game? Like we added something that we had to diminish enough to the point where it wasn't such an overt problem anymore, but has it improved the game? Is the game better now than before we added it? And for me, that answer is probably going to be a no. That's what I'm worried about, that's going to stick around. I mean, two potential realistic solutions that don't require a ton of like new stuff to be made. Like I think like the coolest idea would be to implement something like what we were talking about with like, this concept instead is exiles and this is gone. The more realistic probably things, because that's like a whole bunch of work, like they have to make a bunch of exiles or whatever. The more realistic situation is either they just remove Archnemesis or they make it so that like 1 in 10 rare monsters has an Archnemesis modifier or something like that. Because then it can be a bit more impactful. It's not something you're running into as constantly. It's just very constantly oppressive at the moment. That's probably the most realistic like fix that would be at least somewhat satisfying.
Okay, is there any Archnemesis mod in the game that adds to your PoE experience? You feel better about the game other than the like boss touched, because those are fun for me.
I kind of dig Ice Prism. I think it's kind of neat.
I mean, things are.
So the Bombardier
meant-
thing, I think, is okay.
They're meant to be a challenge. You're not meant to. I don't know. Want to see them, if that makes sense.
People play Dark Souls for a challenge. That's challenging and people have fun.
Yes, I don't enjoy the moments to moment combat when I'm in the fight with the boss so much as I enjoy the fuck you feeling of getting past it. Though.
Okay. Right.
Also,
but I don't know. People have different reasons for playing it, so I can't say that's the universal experience.
think-
at least
Yeah,
for
no,
me.
I'm asking just like
I think
personally.
also the difference with like the Dark Souls, because we've all experienced this. We've been on the other end of this. I think the problem with PoE is you get this such extreme whiplash between different states of play. And so it's like the game you're playing today is fundamentally different to the game you're playing the next league. it's like we've all been in the case at some point from when we were playing back in beta. There was a fundamental shift, like the game speeding up, and we're like, oh, I'm not sure if this is still the same PoE, right? Whereas now, for a lot of people, it's going the other way, where it's kind of like, oh, I got used to this. This is my pace. I'm going fast, going Atlas, and then boom, it's like the axe are harder. This is doing my face in. This is the, and I enjoy the harder gameplay, but it's like it's a different game. So it's like if Dark Souls would be the difference between playing like fucking a Nathan Drake fucking adventure where you're like, oh, I'm just looking at, you know, cool relics and tombs and cool, and now like, oh, I'm now playing fucking Dark Souls randomly halfway through a level. I'm like, okay.
Nathan Drake?
What are those games actually called? I forgot.
I don't know
Alan
what games
Light
you're
or
talking
something
about.
like that? Is that
No.
what you're saying?
Uncharted, yeah, they're like very popular
Oh.
PlayStation like spectacle games.
Oh yeah, they're
Okay,
making a movie
right.
out of that one.
Yeah.
They did.
I did.
Oh, already?
It's
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't
It
watched
had
it.
nothing to do with the game, but
Okay. Neat.
it's got a name.
I don't think there is anything about Archnemesis that if you just took it out completely, that would. I don't think you would miss anything. At least I wouldn't. Like, so the thing is, I miss when I would actually alch a map, for instance, and be like, oh, this has these mods. Oh, I need to be careful of those monsters because that interacts that way. I never had that feeling anymore. Now, like, I'm literally running white maps all the way up. I can sustain maps on white maps all the way up. Sometimes I'll run a blue map if I'm feeling
It's a good
frisky.
idea, honestly.
I
It's a
mean,
good
there's so
idea.
much currency in the game.
A lot of
It's like
people in hardcore do that.
you leave, yeah. I mean, because I was like, so I'm like sitting there talking, and they're playing. It's a trade league as well, right? I'm like, oh, maybe I should out this map, and then I just see Dan in chat going like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Just run it white." It's like, oh, right, of course, I'm an idiot for alching a map. It's like, and that's crazy to me, right? It's like augmenting it gets so it gets harder because it's just there's currency everywhere and all that. I don't know. Like there are so many opportunities to make the game harder that we can take to get more rewards, and we will take them, but we can't right now.
I mean, it's a bit of a larger can of worms, and we're late in the show, but it's also impacted by the fact that so many of the rewards, I think you even mentioned it earlier in the show, so many of the rewards have been moved into places where they're, you know, like guaranteed to a degree. You know, like the altars that'll give you guaranteed div card drops or guaranteed scarab drops, strong boxes that spawn spitting out scarabs, all that sort of thing.
I mean, especially with Sentinel, literally you tailor everything around your Sentinel, your whatever. No.
Like, because the thing is, I'm just thinking, like, if Archnemesis didn't exist, I would start opting into so many more things.
Yeah, I agree.
Immediately, like dangerous things, and
I would do metamorph
things, and yeah,
I would do a metamorph.
I would have run Legion as well.
I am probably not going to do a single metamorph this whole league. I mean, also because like I can run heist or get sentinels and get my catalyst that way more effectively.
I'm sure the occasional Archnemesis would be fine. I wouldn't mind that. I think putting assassin on a bear that can teleport mid slam is kind of ridiculous. I don't know if they fixed that, but I saw that one. I'm like, yeah, I mean stuff like that. It's just like when they break the mods break their own games and the rules on their like. So the visual clarity about the bear coming up and then down, and then it's like, nah, I'm joking. I'm next to you. It's like I don't know.
It's just a prank, bro. Boom.
I don't know what to say. It's kind of.
I think they've changed it now, but there was a clip earlier on in the league of someone doing a blight, and they were standing near the mushroom to try and defend it, and a pack of blue mobs with assassin spawned in the blight, so they all teleported on top of him next to the mushroom, and it ended.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, blight's actually really difficult now to do in maps. I swept out a blight pretty quick.
You just made me realize that I still haven't anointed a single item.
I haven't either.
Kind of sus. It's like I just need one blue boy, and I keep getting like black oils and stuff. I can't get an azure oil.
The teleporting bear clip is hilarious.
It's just like, come on.
It's hilarious because it didn't happen to you. I don't know. It's a lie.
It's a nice summary of like some of the problem. Yeah, it's like the monster does a specific thing. You know, it's like, oh, big slam, scary. I make sure I move away. It's like, nah, you know, it doesn't matter because you don't really know what's going to happen at any point in Path of Exile with Archnemesis.
I wanted
It's
to
like,
react to what
yeah,
someone
we'll
said in
just
chat because I
do
feel like
teleport.
he completely missed what Nugi was saying. So he said, you know you don't have to run what's best, you can run what's fun, right? You're talking to someone who fucking blocked Harvest in SSF because I don't like fucking Harvest. Like, the issue isn't people feel like they're forced to do stuff. I think the main brunt of what we can talk about this whole podcast is the fact that you have zero interaction with Archnemesis. You are forced to run it. It's in the entire game. There's no like, oh, I don't want to interact with Archnemesis, so I'm going to run lab because it's in lab. The only thing is if you do what Ziggy was talking about, where you just buy fucking pinnacle boss keys and you never leave that arena in your hideout. That is the only way to bypass Archnemesis. And even then, you have to level through the axe, which has Archnemesis in it.
And I think it's really a shame how like this is overtaking their game. Like how they are like just because I actually think they have done really well, like as PoE has progressed, at making clear and very distinctive, easy recognizable like monsters, like the bears and things that wind up and or shoot, and like the squids with the laser and things that charge you. And they do it so well in so many cases. Their boss design is on point. They're like being really clever with things, and maybe like there's just like there are a few things here and there, right? Like I go through, if I look past Archnemesis and I look at what I have in front of me, I am so excited at what PoE has to offer right now. Outside of like, I would like more like balance changes because I love that kind of thing and like uniques. But outside of that, it's like I can't. It's getting really hard for me to fault anything else. And that's why it's just a shame.
It just clicked in my head that they've never done this. It feels like they're always adding content and always adding like shit that modifies your gameplay, but they've never added something that isn't optionals like since Nemesis, or well, since Bloodlines, I guess, because they slapped
The
that.
only things you could technically compare it to is when they did stuff like global increasing monster life or like global nerfing character
Right,
gems.
yeah.
That's the only
And
real.
that was pretty like negatively, like the boss life and stuff. That was
Yeah.
pretty negatively met. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of anything. It really was just Nemesis. And to be fair, if Nemesis would have came out now instead of like Arch Nemesis, and Arch Nemesis never existed, I think people would have had the same problem with like old Nemesis and the instant volatiles and all that shit.
I think one thing which is weird about it is the messaging is very bizarre. So it's like in 3.15, I know that they said that like it was poorly communicated. They didn't intend to make the game harder. Fuck off. They intended to make the game hard, and their intent with 3.15 was to make the game hard. At least that's how it came across to me. And then we had the series of interviews, and it was like, no, we never really intended to like go that crazy on it. Like, calm down, guys. That's not what we want to do. But they must have known that this was going to make the game a fuck ton harder, right? There's no way they could have been like, this won't make the game really fucking difficult for a lot of people. And it seems weird to do it after they just kind of like, it feels like a lot of those people they really pissed off, they won back with the Atlas passengers. It's kind of like they kind of had everyone on board. So it just seems really weird to then do this change where you must know it must have been really divisive.
You know what? They will reverse it. The more I think about it, the fact that it's non-optional, I think they're either gonna straight up reverse it or like make it like 1 in fucking 50 mobs is gonna have something and it's gonna be really annoying, but it's not really gonna get rid of the problem.
Why do you
I
suddenly
don't
think
know.
they're going to reverse it now?
Because again, there's really nothing to base my opinion off of. Because like I would think that this would be a situation where it's like, oh, this is classic GGG. They're just gonna, this is the game now, and that's it, and they're just gonna keep it there, and we're playing. But again, there's nothing to compare this to. Somebody in the chat mentioned that the closest thing is betrayal, because that's like sort of non-optional. I mean, sometimes they just spawn on you and that's it. There's like 1 out of the 3 that spawns like 1 out of 10 times. And especially now that you can control your Atlas so much, you can control what you can engage with. Like you don't even get to see the NPCs. So it really isn't comparable to anything else. So I don't see why they would have to stick to the usual like, yeah, we're just gonna do what we're gonna do. GGG gonna GGG, and you guys gotta accept it. I think if people, it's such a like large uproar I don't see why they wouldn't change it. Like, it just doesn't add. It takes away. Even though, again, I'd just like to mention, personally, it doesn't bother me that much.
Okay, bro.
I don't know. I don't know
Noted.
why, okay?
Noted.
Just making sure, okay?
It's
There's
just
been a
built
firm
differently, chat.
misunderstanding between my
Rise
opinions and
constructed
just asking
alternatively.
questions lately.
Rise, if it
Okay.
makes you feeling better, I'm also enjoying the game at the moment.
Oh, fuck no. Okay, never mind. I take it back then. I can't have an agreement with Tarke on anything. That just makes me wrong. I take it back.
Oh, this you'll like this on Rise. Someone in chat said this is the new Sunder, strictly worse, and it's here forever.
I still can't believe that Bex was memeing about it. We were like genuinely serious, making a campaign, change Sunder, like doing races and stuff, you know. The sponsor of this event is Revert Sunder, and she just joked about it.
I
Like
do
it
like how
was some
that's
kind
become
of
a thing with
fucking
them.
meme.
It's a
And no one
they're
remembers
like, yeah,
that anymore.
Yeah,
Tragedy
It's all
plus
just Thunder
time
Boy.
equals comedy.
not for me.
The only thing I remember of that whole thing is that Raz is a Thunder Boy.
True.
Mm.
Damn. We
Okay,
carved on
okay.
Archnemesis pretty good, huh?
Okay, well, how about this? Just final thoughts. Rise.
Right.
What if they were like, okay, we're keeping Archnemesis the same, but we'll revert Sunder?
Answer carefully.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is I love Sunder. Okay, that's it. That's my opinion. I don't hate Archnemesis. I don't hate it. I think it's awful, but I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Yet. What? It's like, you know, how do I explain this? It hasn't bothered me because of the builds that I played.
Yeah.
But objectively looking at it, if GGG were to come to me and they're like, listen, you're good. You've been flipping burgers for 12 years. You're obviously a fantastical, great like game designer. Here's an idea, and they would present Arch Nemesis. I would never say good. Like there's no world in which it would make sense. But simultaneously, I click buttons and it's okay. I don't know. Maybe I just don't care as much as I used to. Who knows? Maybe that's a good thing, you know? Ziggy.
Yeah, get more cynical, Ziggy.
I have to say, this is such a weird, like, reversey sitch, where Ziggy's like the bitter Path of Exile player, and me and Rise are like, yeah, we're enjoying the game.
Why?
This is cool.
Only because I love Path of Exile, and I really want to be enjoying myself a lot more than I am. And I
Yeah.
feel like I should be, but I'm really,
Wait, but
it really hurts my enjoyment, which is frustrating.
do you agree, Tarky, though, that it's like literally objectively bad?
I think it's one of those things where because I said this in the first, it's like I enjoyed pre-nerf Delirium, I enjoyed pre-nerf Syndicate Encounters because of the fact that,
Delirium? You enjoyed pre-nerf?
I did. I preferred it.
On death shit and all that?
But like that's the thing though. It's like, so I used to play hardcore and I used to enjoy really punishing gameplay, but then I was like, nah, PoE's come a bit too bullshit. But I still have that mentality, so I just enjoy softcore and I enjoy the fact that I'll get my shit kicked in. But I know that's such a weird minority view because it's like a lot of the hardcore people be like, no, this is just stupid. Like I've just lost my character. This is dumb. Whereas I've accepted that like I will die a couple of times, so I don't mind. So do you see what I'm saying? I kind of want that middle ground. It's a very niche thing. But I know for the vast majority of people, that's a big fucking no. So if like Chris was to be like, hey, Tarky, we've put this thing in front of you, you decide, I'd be like, nah, this ain't it.
Right, okay.
Right? And I think as to what you were saying, it's kind of like, because I've been enjoying it in its current state, but it's the sort of thing that I could definitely find fun for maybe a league, but if this was here forever, it would get increasingly oppressive. And it's when it starts getting to that point of view of like, for example, like let's say when I play Corsica, I'm like, actually this degen just isn't quite enough. It's not cutting it. Half the mobs are immune to wither. Like my favorite build no longer really like functions, and I feel like I can't play this anymore. Because there are people who feel like they can't play the builds they want to be playing, they have to be playing DD or whatever. If I was to get into that state, then I'd be like, yeah, this is definitely, I'm not even enjoying this anymore. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm glad we all hate PoE.
I'm having more fun this league than the last two. It's got its thorns, but
I made a video recently saying I love PoE. I'm having more fun with this
I
league than I
think-
did anything else in the last year.
I think the league mechanic has a lot to do with it for me, though, because the last two league mechanics I had almost zero excitement for. They weren't awful. I didn't dislike engaging with them, but like Sentinel, I actually like am excited to test some things and mess with some stuff, and it's also just fun to use in the course of a map. So that's really what's pulling me in, and I'll see if that lasts the whole 3 months, or if in a month and a half I'll be in a similar boat.
Wait, that was a joke, Octavian. Calm down. We don't actually hate PoE. I think. PoE, for me, is better than ever. Which is a weird thing to say, because they're changing stuff in a way that would make me question that in the past. And yet, because of the Atlas stuff and all that, I finally appreciate all of your guys' arguments. You know, the Atlas stuff, because you guys always were like, Atlas this and Atlas that, it's so bad and I don't like it. And I was like, okay, yeah, Atlas is definitely not perfect. It's not great, even. There's definitely ways to improve it, but like, how much can you really do with it? I never thought that they could realistically do something that would not be just another version of the Atlas that has a big problem. This version of the Atlas doesn't have that, so it really made me appreciate all of your guys' conversations, because as somebody who's never had like a giant problem, it was annoying. Again, there were issues, there were blah blah blah, and like every version you introduce is gonna have some sort of problem. Now I can see like how good we could have really had it all along. And I worry that a year from now, when they're gonna be like, well, not even a year from now, because they said that they're changing every league, right? Like
New
every
end
league, they're
game,
like,
every
oh,
league.
big end game stuff. So now you
Adding
don't even know.
more.
Your Atlas ain't even safe. What if they arch Atlas your shit next league? It's over.
God, stop. I can't.
On that note,
I'm just saying, okay?
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, I will get you all together in 2 weeks' time, and we can either start the podcast celebrating the changes or having like a depression Alcoholics Anonymous sort of meeting, just like, oh my god, get a nice support network going, share some feels, you know. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you all soon. Best of luck with Sentinel League.
goodbye.
I think that went pretty well. I think we were pretty fair as well.
You can maybe bleep the third.
Wait, hang on,
When
hang
I
on,
said,
hang on,
I was like, ooh, okay, but I have to say it now. I can't hold
Octavian
back.
committed too, though. He was like chunks of it and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys
So I
do.
don't
I
like
feel like my fat
number-
analogy was way better. I'm sorry.
Number ranking things because they
Yeah,
always
number-
evolve into shit like that.
Yeah,
It doesn't
literally.
help your point.
I like it controversial like that. I don't know. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but
It's
because again, if I
very
had
cool
to
seeing
rank
you like that, Ziggy.
PoE, it's like it's a 10 out of 10.
Mm.
If you like disregard the issues of
Literally just
Archnemesis.
like if Archnemesis doesn't exist, I'm like the only thing I can fault at that point is like inventory management and some UI things. That's the only thing at this
Look,
point.
I love Path of Exile, but you are deluded if you give like 10 out of 10 is that like everything's perfect, right?
Yeah.
You're deluded
No,
to give
no.
Path of Exile
In-
10 out of 10 if that's
No,
context.
because like my question was in regards to previous versions of PoE.
Okay,
Oh,
I think
that's-
PoE is better now than ever.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
that
agree.
doesn't
not
make it
10
a
out of 10.
perfect product.
Battle Brothers isn't even a 10 out of 10 game, and Battle Brothers is better than PoE.
Yeah, I don't think anything's a 10 out of
No-
10.
nothing's
It
a 10
just
out of
doesn't
10.
exist.
Siblings.
It's just because it was like comparison to like last league and all this sort of. I guess I should have made that clear, but yeah.
I get really annoyed when people like a new album or something. So this is a 10 out of 10. It's like, no, like that means it was literally without any fault. You went through the whole thing and didn't think there's things like, oh, it'd be cool if they did this. Like, no, come on.
I have
Golden
not
Sun.
eaten I have not eaten food since this morning, and it
Yeah,
is
but who
almost
asked
9 p.m.
Octavian? We're talking about Archnemesis here.
Then
Continue.
you can keep talking.
I
Don't
tried
shut
to.
up.
this
I
golden
look. I
dog
tried to
turd.
feed you
Soup
carbonara,
is-
and you threw it in my face.
I did.
Time for some dog turd carbonara or something.
What do you? Okay, what are you gonna make?
I have no idea. I just got back from a. I don't know what the fuck is in the fridge,
What are you
man.
talking about?
Whatever's
Tarke?
in the fridge.
Octavian's literally just gonna like go to the fridge and take a bite of out of a block of cheese. Like this
No,
guy.
I was away all weekend. I don't remember what's in there. Hopefully, it's still edible.
I feel like you could
Even more
sit here
sorry.
longer talking about what's may or may not be in your cupboard.
There's at least one can of chickpeas. If I satisfied your curiosity.
Like, are they in any kind of like seasoning or a sauce, or is it just like clean
They're
vanilla?
they're just wet.
Right.
There you go.
And
I'm trying to make it as blunt and gross for you as possible.
And what do you do with your wet chickpeas? Do you like a paste?
Whatever your imagination can conjure up, Tarke.
Do you do like a hummus? Maybe make some bread. Do some.
Sure. Yeah, hummus is good.
Yeah. I can't eat hummus. It's really sad. I really like chickpeas, but I can't eat them anymore.
Well, I was gonna make you some, but I guess I'll refrain.
Yeah. I can't have garlic either.
I was gonna joke
I'll
about.
put some garlic in it then.
Or onions. Basically any of the nice things.
I was gonna joke about how this shit makes me uncomfortable, but we're like 5 years too late for that.
I haven't even been on the show for 5 years.
Also, can I just say briefly, I know you want to leave. Someone's like, you pan fry them, Tarke. It's not that I don't know how to fucking cook or eat chick. I can't eat it. You know, it's not like I've just been. And you don't like pan fry hummus. Like, who the
Wow,
fuck is
every
getting-
time I've just been blackening it to a crisp.
Hummus
Yeah,
makes
you can-
Tarke
you can
feel like
cook
Nugi does
chickens.
about the league.
Yeah,
Come on,
exactly, yeah.
guys. Read between the lines.
All right, I'm gonna go.
What? I love the league.
What about
Oh,
some like
guys.
sun-dried tomatoes,
Octavian.
Octavian?
Sentinel's
Oh,
great.
he just left. Wow.
Good. I was
I'm
told,
surprised
like,
he
that's-
hasn't left earlier. I
Yes,
was being
that's
quite
true.
the
It's
prick.
like you can go if you're hungry.
He did the same thing last time. I feel like this Octavian
He's too
guy.
polite.
No, he's getting rude. He's getting an attitude.
I mean, I was an asshole. Let's be honest.
It's like when you know when it's like a really nice kid, but they become like a teenager and start acting up. I feel like that's Octavian right now. He's having his like troublesome teens.
Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you really not get the alt F2, F3, F4 thing, Raiz? Were you hamming
What?
it up?
Wait, I don't even know what.
Oh my god.
I actually didn't get it. Wait, what am I missing? Wait, I actually don't know. There was a meme in there too?
It actually didn't.
Yeah, right in here. Sorry.
Wait, I have no idea.
So they were talking about shift 1, F2, F3, and then Ziggy's like, yeah, but I'm using alt F2, 3, 4.
Alt F4, right?
You were just rioting about the use of
It's.
keys.
I thought you guys were. We made this joke like 3 times fucking 2 weeks ago. Are you kidding? I didn't hear that at all. It completely
Oh my.
like. I literally made that joke 2 weeks ago.
And still didn't get it.
No, I was too focused on the conversation. I've been sick. I'm up since like 6 a.m. on 4 hours sleep.
The sun was in your eyes.
I was lagging. No, but actually,
It's actually like honestly a feasible keybind for hardcore players. Because
Well,
you would
that's
spawn your
all.
sentinel and log
Yeah, you
out.
empower the mobs and just instantly quit. Seems
That's
good.
great.
Yeah.
The blue sentinels do get me killed sometimes when I push the
Yeah.
button.
Mhm.
Look at the thing where they spawn a pack, and sometimes you spawn the pack and they just instantly will hit you at the exact same time. It's like
It's
it's like
scary.
5 bears spawn literally on top of your character and just insta swipe you. I'm like, sick. I love it. Let's keep going. You gotta be like phasing and running at maximum Quicksilver speed while you press the button. It's the only way to play PoE right now.
I'm about to respec my passive skill tree to gain 40% movement speed, and I am so excited.
How do you get permaphasing these days?
Tinker skin.
How
All I'm
else?
hearing from all of this is that PoE was a better game when it was balanced around hardcore.
True.
You guys would have been happier, softcore players. That bird bullshit and all this stuff, it would have been instantly removed from the fucking game. Everybody would be having
Ah.
fun. But this is what you got. This is what you deserve. This is what we all deserve.
Okay.
You animals. I'm actually surprised that Chad was truing. I thought this was a cooked take.
No, I think it's quite a popular take.
It's like you've got you've balanced around. You got 6 portals. It'd be right. It doesn't matter. You randomly died to something you didn't see. You got 6 portals.
Much juice available in PoE. Why wouldn't you take it anyways? I mean, people are gonna kill themselves, like, not literally, but like in the game all the time anyways.
I don't know. Based off
Like
this last
everyone's gonna
podcast,
like,
Niggy, I
you're
think
gonna click
literally-
all the altars, you're gonna put all the juice, you're gonna use all the sentinels all the time. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, if the game was balanced around hardcore, then you'd still be in Act 3. So you wouldn't get to do any of that stuff by default. Hard
True.
mode, can't wait.
True.
6 years from now. You guys think hard mode is going to come out before PoE 2?
I mean, yeah, because PvT is never
I don't
coming
know
out.
anymore.
I don't think we're getting PvT before. They keep saying 2024. Nah, I'm like 2026, my dude.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
I reckon we'll have
I don't
beta
think
next
they've
year.
ever have they ever properly said? But it is. I feel like Q4 2024 has been floating around for a while, but I don't know. I think it's like 2026. The D4's not happening anytime soon. There's no rush.
We're actually almost there though, like 2023. I remember when people were like, 2023? That's insane. There's no way it's going to take that long. You're high as fuck, man. And then now we're like actually almost there. And I mean, it's like, I mean,
I mean,
it's not like
stuff did
GGG, they're going to
happen
like
though
drop
along
it,
the
right?
way. Let's be honest.
True,
right?
true.
It's not like anyone expected a grand pandemic.
I mean, how long does making an MMO take? 5 years on average? I know this isn't. It's still a live service game.
I mean, from what? From actually starting to like, getting people to like start programming
General,
and
I
all
think
that.
the general like pipeline for making an MMO is about 5 years.
See that?
Yeah, but GGG is cracked. Anything in like other game that
one.
takes 5 years takes like a month in PoE.
Well, yeah, but it's like I still don't know how the fuck they're doing that gem thing, man. It's like I don't know if they've worked that out yet. But like, oh yeah, we changed how gems work. I'm like, oh, how are you gonna like code that? And all their programs like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, what do you mean? How do you code that? Like, we'll work it out. It's all right, cool. How are they gonna do that conversion?
I mean, they showed like
Yeah, that gameplay.
how it
Yeah.
functioned.
No.
they had a
They
working
have to
version of it.
convert. How are they gonna do their conversion from all the
Oh,
fucking
right.
gems and all the items in standard?
Oh,
That's the problem. It's like, how do you handle that conversion? PoE 2 works. We played it. Like, it feels fucking good. But how do you actually transfer every single fucking item, every single gem? That migration is going to be
And
insane.
before it just deletes everyone's stashes.
Yeah, I don't understand how you do it. That's going to be so much. Like,
So many
literally,
rollbacks.
maybe even like billions of. How many items? It must be near a
Oh,
billion.
billions is an understatement.
Yeah, like,
Like-
Billions in my remove only tabs. I've got so many remove only tabs. I haven't looked at my standard stashes in 5 years, maybe. It's gonna be a mess. Oh yeah.
I was horrified to find out that my hardcore Sentinel League parent inventory thing was hardcore.
oh,
So it has like all my hardcore tabs, like how they're named and everything. With like it's all the way back from when I used to pick up like eye level stuff. So there's like I level 77, I level 78, and like all the different trade tabs and gems and all
Was
that.
your Nugi trade stab in there?
No. Something like that. Who GCP?
50 tabs called like demi rewards and shit like that.
Yeah. I have a demi one in there.
Dude. You used to collect the gems. because there were
Yeah.
no gem vendors. All
Oh, yeah.
gems were worth something, and even like Spell Echo and Multistrike were like an Exalt.
Mm-hmm.
So you just picked up everything.
Getting chain was a big fucking months.
Right.
I would just fucking run around Fell Shrine and pick up gems all day and sell them for a Chaos Orb. Or for GCP, and that was like 1/4 of an Exalt.
I remember Ziggy covering the GCP drama.
Right?
It was a big deal. So
GCP man.
chat, no one knew there was a GCP recipe, and GCPs were big money. And there was a
No,
guy
actually,
who like,
people knew.
well, yeah, but it was
I
like
could've-
4
The
people.
top hardcore players knew.
Yeah, they knew. Dominion knew, but he wouldn't tell me because he knew I would spill the beans.
They wouldn't tell me either. I mean, Baker knew, Gangsta Boo knew,
Oh, really?
Dominion, all of
Baker
them
knew? What the fuck?
All of them knew.
All
All of them
I'm
knew.
gonna have a word with Baker now. What the fuck?
It's because Gangsta Boo was like spilling the
Ooh.
beans, but then
Oh shit!
yeah. Ooh, whatever happened with Gangsta Boo? That guy was a
I
legend.
used to watch him, yeah, a lot back in the day.
It's coolest name too, Gangsta Boo, brother.
Wasn't he like a musician or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Baker knew. Wait, hold on.
don't
I mean,
know.
this was like 8 years ago, but
No,
I'm
bring
pretty
back the
sure.
drama.
Year-old
We need it.
controversy.
Bring it back. 8 years from the grave.
Baker didn't know. It's only the people that don't play anymore knew, guys. Nobody to blame. To be fair, it's like zero frame of reference at this point, because like something like that in today's PoE would. I mean, well, I say that, but I guess we would never find out about it. But there's so many things where like
The most recent one we had was the whole
Flame
like
wall
ancient
stuff.
orb thing with like Lycosides. Remember there was a
Oh,
big like
true. Yeah, that lasted
that wasn't
a
that
long
long
time.
ago.
Yeah.
That was
People
like
figure out,
5 years ago, Tarke.
Oh, was it?
I mean, ancient orbs. That was Harbinger. When
Yeah,
was that?
true. That was okay. Yeah, that was.
That's like so long ago now. The best part was in D3, where like people would trade unidentified items for gambling, and then like a year down the line, people found out that you could actually tell what the items were prior to IDing. So there were just people scamming for like an eternity.
I made a video on that pretty early
I
on.
remember
That you
that.
should
Yeah?
be careful. Yeah, I did, just to warn people.
It was crazy. Because in that game, like we're talking fucking a lot of money. Because it was all like real life money. It's crazy. How long ago was Harbinger? I need a date.
I remember a lot of that stuff still being really recent. Like I remember there was that whole. This is old. This was like one of the
Harbinger
first.
was the
Oh, go on.
first like free 100 league.
Oh my god, it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the whole thing about like it was a week-long race event or something, and Cybrix took all of Crip's maps. That was a big thing.
Oh, that was funny.
That was
That was
funny.
a long
Oh,
time.
That was good.
That's really funny.
And then didn't he like die with all of them as well, like right after?
He died with all the maps.
Yeah.
Then I had to give him maps.
Yeah.
And I gave him maps, and he was super appreciative of it.
Yeah.
And he made a video. It's like, "Oh, Nuki gave me a bunch of maps. I'm coming back, dudes."
Crip did, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Good times.
Big thing.
I remember that one race where you were playing Firestorm against Crip, and people were like, the strat was to spam like level 66 maps, I think was the lowest back then.
Oh yeah.
Nobody would go in higher tiers because nobody could actually get like higher tier maps. So everybody was just spamming low tier maps for fucking a month straight. Like, okay.
Actually, I wasn't. No, that the Firestorm was not against Crib. That was against some people that RMT'd. It was really annoying because they had like infinite courtyards and infinite.
Right.
Yeah.
You played a bunch of Firestorm. You kind of, to me, you were like the Firestorm guy.
Oh yeah, I played a lot of it.
Because I watched you back then.
Yeah, it was
I
like the
even
fun.
streamed,
It
I
was
think.
such a fun skill, especially when you got quality on it and it started like raining faster. It's like, "Whoa."
I really miss
Good
running
times.
multiple fire traps and plus fire gem shields That was my shit, dude. I
Same.
fucking love that.
Oh,
That was
Fire
the
trap used
good
to have a
shit.
cooldown, and the cooldown would be separate depending on like the skill gem that you were using. So you would just run the 4 fire traps because nobody had 5 links anyway. And that was the build. You would just like rotate your fire
It was
traps.
so good. I miss that so
Piano the
much.
shit out of it.
I miss that. You'd have like plus fire gem dagger, plus fire gem shield, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
or was it double dagger? I don't think gems shields had plus gem level then, but yeah, that was good shit.
Trappers had a real like feeling of just like having a bunch of stored up stuff that you would just
I've missed that.
dump all out.
I
at the same
remember when
time.
I remember
It's kind of cool.
there was a Baeclast for an incursion league, and I was playing traps before that, and they did the trap rework, and I was so fucking salty. And you guys were like, Tarke, come on, like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, no, they're losing the identity. Like, this is fucked. I do still miss that.
I don't remember that. That was
but it's better now. Let's just be real. Traps are better now.
different. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
but like, I know Octavian
was-
has played
this is
cooldown
pure-
trappers to
pure
100 like
nostalgia.
twice, but I would like that to be more of a thing. I do really miss that.
It was
Incursion
interesting.
I
was-
think it would be cool if you could opt into like a cooldown based. Like
Yeah.
that would be like a really good like adds a cooldown to your skill. Now
Yeah,
it
they
gets
could be a
such and
key
such.
node or a support gem or something. I've
Yeah.
made multiple videos saying I'd love to have that as an option.
Or like an alternate skill gem. Like
No,
alternate
fuck
explosive
alternate.
trap.
No. Alternate skill gems.
And now it has a cooldown and it does all sorts of stuff.
No, because this is the thing, is like, because I could play a cooldown fucking trapper if I had all the alt gems, I had the Helmin sharps, but like, that shit doesn't fucking exist unless I'm like, oh, it's your own fault, you're
Oh,
playing
maybe you.
SSF.
Oh, okay. I thought you just dropped it. Wasn't that what he said? Oh, just
Yeah,
drop
but
it,
then I have
dude.
to run heist. I can't drop it outside of heist. If I could drop it outside of heist, it'd be chilling.
Don't you love heist?
I enjoyed heist for what it was at the time. I had a lot of fun with it, but I don't want to be doing it every fucking week. I do like one league with heist and I don't do it. So like I did heist last league, so I'm not gonna do heist this league. And also, I can now, when I spec out of heist, I now get 2% more breaches and legions. So it's like, I'm specking out heist. You know?
You know what this nostalgic talk reminded me of? Like back in the day, back in the olden days of PoE, there used to be a lot more like interaction and collaboration between players and streamers. I remember like
Mhm.
everyone getting to Act 3 and doing group piety farming where you'd have like just people rotating like open groups, joining in, doing boss killing and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. Don't really have a lot of that these days. Either people playing solo self-found or even if you are playing group like or thing, it's just much more insular. I don't think there's a lot of collaborative stuff like that anymore these days.
Yeah.
I don't know why
Kane
that
said
is.
it in chat perfectly. The game is much more solo orientated now.
And I mean, generally speaking, I like for everything to be doable and fun solo because that's normally how I prefer to play. But there is something lost there.
I always
this
played
the closest-
solo, and then I tried the piety thing, and that was how I met like the whole Fresh Guild and Blue Equal and all those guys. They flamed the shit out of me because I had no idea what was happening, and they were just like, "Dude, this guy's a total noob. What the fuck?" I was playing like Viper Strike, trying to fight my way through Ulnaris, fucking dying on every corner. These guys were just like, "Dude, this guy fucking sucks. Wait, kick him out." They kicked me out of the rotation, and I was sad. That was my first interaction. It was very poggers. And then we became best friends later. Kind
Nice.
of.
I
Happy ending.
remember
Typical romance.
I think we need Hako missions back. That was such a
Oh,
great source
no.
of interaction.
No.
I'm gonna throw up.
I was gonna say,
Fingers
I
crossed.
remember, was it TeamSpeak or Ventrilo that like the
Ventrilo.
OG guys used to use? I remember feeling like
Mumble.
I felt like it being a big deal. Yeah, because it was the Mumble Bros. I was
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Moors' Mumble server in Perennis League, and I'm like, yo, I've made it. Like, whoa, I'm in with the cool kids. That was like a big deal.
TeamSpeak was old people. Ventrilo was WoW, and
Yeah.
Mumble was like everything.
I miss the Mumble
else.
Bros. Mumble Bros are cool.
It was nice.
It's worth mentioning though, co-op and party play is a lot better these days in Path of Exile, like in many ways.
Yeah, you got
It's
link
worth-
skills.
I feel like it's worth encouraging people to try it a bit more. Amy and I have been co-oping for the last like I don't even know how many, like 6, 7, 8 leagues.
I mean,
now,
it
but
always
it's-
looks really fun watching
gotten
the
better
two
and
of you
better.
play together. It always looks really fun.
It's just it wasn't before. It was like kind of like an open community thing. It felt like a bit more like community interaction. Now like party play is better, but it's less. There's less of that like open community thing going on.
Mm.
I tried engaging as much as I could when I played hardcore. like to get people to group. So I just whenever I had a unique map, I was like, free entry. And everyone would come over. Yeah, come to me. This is nice social interaction.
I was the opposite. I avoided people. I hated that about PoE that you had to play in a group. Like you couldn't map. You had to be in a group rotating. Like there was no other way. Because like every map was just so many exalts. It was so much investment. You would never be able to do it.
Hello.
Oh wow.
Oh, you've come back to ruin the overlay.
Yep, I'm here to ruin everything.
What are you eating?
I found a bunch of peanut butter stuffed pretzels and some pasta that I've got water boiling for. It's very exciting stuff.
Nice.
To add like more context to what Rise was saying, for people who didn't play back then, it's like I remember back in the day, it's like, oh, I want a map, right? Let me get a curse character, an aura character, like multiple like DPS. It was a thing.
And like if you were the map owner, then people had to give you currency to roll the map, and it would be like 10x.
It would be
The
like
economics
big
of
drama.
mapping
It's
was
like, yo, someone's not
very
been giving me
different.
map rolling currency for today's session.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
fuck
yeah,
this
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
So you'd be like building up a map base for somebody else.
Yeah.
But then you would have no maps, but they would have all the maps, but then you wouldn't be able to talk shit. 'Cause if you talk shit, then they kick you out of the rotation. Now you really don't have any maps. It's like, oh,
That's why
fuck.
you did the map rolling and you had the maps.
Yeah.
'Cause fuck that.
For context, the economics of mapping were that at the time it was possible to blank on tier 1 maps and go back to not being in maps.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Getting a
remember
tier
having
1
times
base
like
was
that.
like
We're
a
like,
big
oh, I guess I
deal.
go back to piety farming.
No. City of San for days.
You.
That was a little before my time, I think.
You had to gear up before you were ready to like farm docks. It was like,
Oh yeah.
wait,
You
you're
will never
docks
know.
farming? Ooh, this guy's pretty fucking big deal. I'm still in Fellshrine, like, woohoo.
Surviving Sarn was there was no small feat. You will never know the dangers of Perpetus.
That was the thing, because he
True.
used to be at the top. So
He was so scary.
So one of the #1 farm zones also had one of the scariest because everyone just like, don't go too high up. And if anyone ever pulled him in your group, you're like, no, bail, bail, bail. You hear
Is
that
that the
bear
lightning trap guy?
He's
the bear trap guy.
we pull him.
Bear
Leave,
trap.
leave.
Throws
He's
bear trap at you
coming.
and-
And then you hear the classic tink,
Yeah.
tink, and someone's dead.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
Scary.
So like we had fucking flame dash back then. You're bear trapped. That's it. There's no like, ooh, I'm just gonna blink arrow away.
You log out. That's it.
And
You
the
log out
desync into the
slowly.
trap was the worst as well.
Yeah.
Especially if he hit you with the EK as you're running away, because it would always stun you.
Maybe that's what I should. Maybe I should use my Mirror and Acropolis map.
Good one. That's a classic.
Yeah, yeah.
One of my first hardcore rips was to Bear Trap, but it wasn't Perpetus. It was the Bear Trap Rogue Exile.
He was scary.
Oh, he was scary.
Yeah.
He
I
bear
wouldn't
trapped
know
me.
Didn't he have like
about that.
EK totems as well? He bear trap and EK totems.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck that guy.
That's a different one.
Oh, is that a
The
different one?
EK totems, that's the one that's in the game still, but there was like a only bear trap guy.
Vicus, big boy.
Biggest dickus, yes,
Yeah.
that one.
big
He was
bone,
one of the newer
like
ones,
Big Bone.
wasn't he? As well, like he came in a little later.
Yeah, he came in late, the one with the vulnerability, yeah.
Now the real fun one was the one that cast
Blast?
Abyssal Cry. Now that was
Oh.
a fun one.
Oh, no.
Oh, When it was bugged and it would
Yes.
be permanent on your minions.
Mhm.
So basically, anytime you summon a minion, this new exile would kill you 100% of the time when changing zones. Or like your minions would expire, it would just blow all your shit up. It was great.
Mm.
I died like that. I rank 1
Yeah,
with
I know.
Crane.
That's why do you think I mentioned it?
It was me and Crane in a map, and he
Yeah.
just fucking popped us. I was playing SRS and just instantly detonated all of us.
Do you remember when
was
the
something.
grace, because you used to take so long to load into zones, the grace period would run out, and then your minions would pull monsters and kill you?
Oh
Yeah,
god.
no grace period, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? Something with a Z, where he was like... You could see it on Crip's stream.
Oh, Cybrix?
No.
Oh.
It was like a super... There was like dump truck,
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there's so many people that used to play this game. Holy shit.
The
No, Z, the players. What?
Sendrick?
Who was the
something?
guy who used to play Leap Slam all the fucking time?
Saldi? It could be Saldi as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
was it Zoldyck? Something
You
like
Oh,
guys-
that.
Saldick, I think.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, Zaldrick. No,
yeah.
Drick.
Zoldrick.
Zoldrick, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one.
You guys are making me feel like a noob again.
What was the name of the guy?
before
Oh,
my time.
Akira. Okay.
Mm.
Oh, God.
Akira would RMT nonstop, and then eventually he showed guns on stream and got
Yeah.
banned.
Oh, my God.
He
His whole art was so dumb.
was-
Oh, my God.
Dude, Akira is fucking
Dude,
epic.
you're
Because I was just an observer, man. Like, I didn't know anybody. I didn't talk to anybody. I was just like watching this shit through like your stream and Chris' stream. It was the fucking most bizarre stuff. Like Morse crying about everything, Kaiser maging out. It
Mm.
was great. Cybrix arguing. It was good times.
Mm.
So much memery.
Could you do a legitimate Leap Slam build? I think that's a build I'm very oddly nostalgic for. I remember people losing their shit when they were like, I can Leap Slam and kill the pack. But you had to kill the pack, because if you didn't one-shot that pack, it'd instantly fall over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played custom melee kill leap slam.
Yeah.
I tried to play custom melee kill with everything, bro. I was obsessed with custom melee kill. I loved that shit.
I'm glad you don't try to go back to that, and instead you try to go back to the SRS. That it's it's
Yeah,
a
but
little
it
less
actually
painful,
like
probably.
worked though. That was a brutal realization when I was playing SRS now. That in all reality, it's not actually like worse than it was in terms of how it's clearing. It's just that the game's progressed so much that this level of clear makes it seem like completely useless. But like you can still do some pretty heavy memery with it on softcore, because like it's like any temporary summon. Once you reach a certain threshold of multipliers, it just melts everything. But like that's never really obtainable on SSF hardcore. It will take too long, or you'd have to give up too much defense. Although nowadays it's probably a lot more manageable.
What about
I've had a similar
trade
realization
hardcore?
recently too, where like
probably.
walking around with 30% movement speed boots on is not enough. Like
Yeah.
I feel real slow with 30% movement speed boots on. I'm like, oh jeez.
To be fair, we were
Careful.
talking about incursion earlier, and that was the bright beak elementalist with blade vortex.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck me, that thing.
I mean,
went
like
fast.
everything used a bright beak.
Yeah, Bright Beak.
Not
Yeah.
quite.
K Nova
It's
was
a bit of an
big.
exaggeration, but
I mean, pretty much.
Bright Beak was literally the best on slot caster weapon.
Yep.
yeah, assuming you get your damage elsewhere, you were
And
like
then when
you would always
Abyss
be
came
working
out-
towards it.
When Abyss came
Yeah,
out, it was
you'd be-
also the best on slot attack weapon as well.
You'd
I
be
did,
weapon swapping for single target.
I did bright beak flicker in Abyss. It was fun.
Ooh.
What the hell?
It was fun. It was
How
so
did you even
fast.
sustain? Oh, in Abyss. Okay, now that's already pretty late. I was like, how did you sustain charges? Because you used to be only able to play like Terminus Est, and that's it.
It was stacking tons of Ellie damage and using the self bleed stuff.
Oh,
So I didn't
okay.
do very much fizz. It was mostly
That's
Ellie,
cool.
but I did enough fizz to cause bleeds.
Nice.
I think if
Could
I was
lead
going
to do
to
flicker
play...
as well, because it kind of leads you the way you need to go.
Mm-hmm. Sure it does.
I was gonna say, if I was gonna play a melee build these days, I think I'd
Just
maybe try
standard.
and make the Leap Slam shit work. Just pure Leap Slam. Can't be that bad. Must do like decent damage.
Pure Leap Slam?
Pure Leap Slam must do alright.
You can make anything work now.
Yeah.
But the
Okay.
problem is that you have to use boring ways to make things like cool a lot of times.
I feel like last league was exceptionally good for
Yeah.
build variety.
Yeah.
And we've
Yeah,
kind of
it
taken
was.
a step back with Archnem in that regard. I
Yo,
don't know.
You
Maybe it
feel
was
like you're
maybe it was also just that Omni and Ashes were like a crutch and holding up tons of builds because they were, fairly available and
Mhm.
extremely strong.
That's what people would argue about, that the only way to increase build variety in the past was by constantly like buffing stuff and creating these like enabling things. I remember having an entire argument about this with baked chicken. It was poggers.
Oh my god.
There's like just buff everything. Game's gonna be good. Build
Wait,
variety,
when the
by the
fuck
way.
did you and Baked Chicken ever interact?
Oh, me and Baked Chicken interacted all the time.
What, like watching each other's streams and stuff, or like were you on voice comms?
No, somehow like especially after that debate situation, we're cool with each other. We'd
Oh.
meme about each other all the time, and it was like a normal experience.
I
I
must
still
have
have him
missed
on my
that.
friends list on Twitch. He actually streams like every day for 16 hours, and he's been doing that for like 8 years.
What does he
It's just
play
that
these
he
days?
changed his name and he doesn't stream under a category. So people that don't know that he's there. But he like sits there and watches videos about like self-improvement and just fucking
Right.
works out all day. Like that's it. That's all he does.
Fair enough.
It's interesting. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people don't really know that. There you go. Friends lists are going away on Twitch, so yeah.
Wait, what is?
What are they replacing that with, or they're just not? They're just getting rid of it.
What's going away?
Friends.
The friends list on Twitch.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're just removing it. I mean, I can't blame them, no, but
Huh.
I don't know. Are people really using it?
I didn't know it was a thing.
There you
So
go.
no.
I haven't accepted a friend's request in like 6 years.
No. I mean, I don't
I
use
mean-
Twitch, so I can't really talk.
There you go. All right, I'm leaving at 3 a.m. I'm done.
Yeah, that's fair.
You are done.
I'm so
After
done.
tonight, you're done.
I'm not just on Twitch and in PoE.
It's true.
Well, I will see you all soon. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope Octavian, whatever you put in the oven or pasta boiling, whatever, is very tasty, tasty, tasty.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for being an asshole earlier, Octavian. I love you.
When were you an asshole? What?
I'm just always an asshole, so I thought I would
True.
take this moment to apologize.
Oh, no
Yeah.
worries.
After physically assaulting Chris Wilson, as told by Reddit,
What?
yeah, don't you know?
No.
Don't you read the Reddit? I was so rude, I practically physically hurt him.
Oh,
I really lost control.
damn.
Ziggy, you missed it. We
Yeah.
just
You were
established that we're letting people sleep now.
Ah.
Are you signing up your stream or anything, by the way, Ziggy?
No.
No. Okay, I can host someone else. Right, cool.
What build should I
Bye.
play if I play softcore?
Leap slam.
Bye, chat. Stay cool.
And with that, I'm leap slamming out of here. Whee!
Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.